All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. Still recording in advance while I'll be gone, so we're here late at night in the live setting. But we make it work out here. So I'll be a little dark, but it's fine. Anyway, CHESSJERK's here. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
No problem. Of course, again, thank you for doing this on a pretty short notice. Always appreciated. So
it was a quick 24-hour turnaround or whatever it was. That was
yeah.
Not bad at all. Good.
We make
good,
it. We're speedrunners. We make it work.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Speedrun the planning process.
Well, speaking of, what do you do in the scene?
Well, I've been speedrunning now. I had to go back and check to see how far back I go. But it's been 18 years since I did my first speedrun of Final Fantasy Tactics way back in the day. I've been streaming now for over 11 years, which also seems pretty crazy. I can't believe that's... I don't know where the time goes. Yeah, and also looking at just the sheer variety of games that I've done speedruns for. I've done speedruns for ColecoVision games, NES, Master System, and for more current consoles, I have Switch, games on the Switch that I've done, and it's a bunch of systems in between. So, and my streaming schedule is a bit erratic because I am married with kids, so whatever my schedule depends on what they're doing a lot of the time. But I stream whenever I can. And Zelda 1 Randomizer, I'm pretty big in that scene. Been doing that now for probably about 7 years at least, so have a lot of fun with that. And whenever I stream, who knows what you might see? You might just see like Minecraft or something. I've streamed Minecraft before. That's always a good time. It's not just speedruns. So
large variety. Got to cover all the bases.
You got to cover the bases. Just don't ask me about current consoles besides the Switch, because my previous console before my Switch is probably my Xbox 360.
I mean, a good choice.
Got a bit of a gap there.
Well, I'm definitely a retro enthusiast myself, so a little more modern stuff kind of, I don't know, confuses me, I guess.
Oh, it's
not that it's that many games.
I look at the Xbox 360 controller, my hands say, there are way too many buttons on this controller. I need A and B and select and start. I don't need... It asks me to hit left bumper. I'm like, what's left bumper? I have no idea. Whatever, it's okay. I eventually, after enough times looking down at my hands, say, okay, hit left bumper. I know it's over here somewhere, and yeah. Eventually you figure it out.
Well, very good. The learning process.
I did that with the NES way back in the day when my 8-year-old hands were saying, okay, hit A now. And it's the same process.
We all get there eventually. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you learn to hit A 40 times a second, and then you're a speedrunner. So.
Yeah, it's as simple as that.
It is. That's it. That's all it is. Even you can do it. Even you.
Anyone can do it. It's true.
I tried those that they had at one GDQ. They had that how fast can you mash thing. I cannot mash. I say I'm a speedrunner, and I say, oh, how much I can't mash. That's why you'll notice the games that I play do not require mashing in any way. That's why I stick to like RPGs or games of that variety. No mashing required in this game show.
Yeah, smashing is hard and hard on the body. So
it is. I am very old, and I have old bones and old hands. So I couldn't. Got to keep my hands good for the rest of my life. And destroying my hands now is probably not a good idea.
Well spoken. Got to keep the hand health going strong. Because
it's very important. If I lose my hands, what am I going to do? I guess I'll spear with my feet if I lose my hands.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a cool showcase. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that would be. That's my way into AGDQ 2035. That's what I'll be doing probably.
Well, don't leak it this early.
Oh,
got to keep the surprise.
You didn't hear it from me. No.
Of course. So you said 18 years speedrunning.
18 years. Yes.
Well, how did that start?
If you go back to 2006, I was on the Game FAQs forums way back in the day. And I'd been playing Final Fantasy Tactics for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years, doing various types of challenges where they say, okay, beat the game with 1 class. And beat the game, with, only 2 units, and they can only use certain class, whatever. They got so many challenges that you can do. It was a lot of fun. And then one day, somebody, I think it was in June of 2006, somebody started a topic, and it said, how fast can you beat the game using any strategy you want, but don't use like Game Shark or things like that to cheat? And I saw that and I thought, I never thought about that. let me think about that, and I'll give it a shot. I mean, I had never heard of speedrunning, never heard of SDA, never heard of anything really. And so I went through the game and tried. Okay, so I thought my first thought was, okay, let's just use the main character by himself to save time because you don't need all these other units, and you can use like the most overpowered setups you can. And I went through the entire game with this and learned a bunch of new things about the game that I never knew before because I didn't think about it in a speedrunning context. And I beat the game in like 6 hours. You know, I thought that's pretty fast. And then somebody in that topic said, "Oh, that's pretty fast. Do you know about these people over on this other website? They're very curious to hear about your notes and how you're doing this." I said, "Oh, what forum is that?" And I said, Speed Demos Archive. I registered on Speed Demos Archive then. I started talking in that topic, and I mean, 6 months later, I had recorded a run on VHS, a segmented run that was about 5.5 hours, and everyone thought it was the greatest run ever, and that was the start of my speedrunning career, and it's been going ever since.
That's a crazy early start. Like, you don't hear of a lot of people from back then that are still doing it. There's just
True.
a select few people nowadays.
I was young back then. I'm definitely not as young as I used to be.
I mean, it is almost 20 years, so...
That's, yeah. I remember they came out last year sometime when somebody was, because I think we're talking about like anniversary Twitch streams or something like that. And I first said, I have no idea how long I've been streaming for. So I went back in my highlights. My first highlight was, I think it was May 19th of 2013. I knew I had done a highlight for my very first stream because of something funny that happened in my very first stream. And this was like a week before then, 10 years later. It's like, oh, my 10-year anniversary's coming up. How about that? Amazing. And then I even went back further than that to say, okay, I've been streaming for 10 years. How long have I been speedrunning for? And then I thought, that's even longer than that because my speedrunning way predated streaming. So it's tough when you think about how long you've been doing it, and then you actually do the math in your head, and it's like, boy, I feel old now.
Yeah, you've been doing
take a breath.
Pre-Twitch, pre-Justin TV.
Yep.
So, wow. And what was SDA like back then?
SDA was an interesting repository because, I mean, for videos, because I think it originally was based on just things like Quake and Doom and, just those types of games. That was its original function. And then it branched out into NES games, and then, from there to other consoles as well. But, when I first started submitting runs, I mean, like I mentioned, my first run was done on VHS because I had no other way of, I mean, I literally said to them, okay, I'm get like a 6-hour run here. How do I get it to you? And they said, okay, what are your options for recording? And I have a VCR. That's all I have. I don't have anything else. So they said, okay, record on VCR. And then that prompted a couple week discussion about how to best do that to capture it at a quality that it's actually watchable after the fact, because as we know about VHS is not the best quality in the world, but I figured out a way to do that. And I think I mailed at least five VHS tapes to the SDA admin, who then captured it onto whatever their recording software was and generated the run from there. I was again segmented runs. Who does segmented runs nowadays? No one that I'm aware of, which is funny to think about. But yeah, it was. And eventually, I think I recorded at least 4 Final Fantasy Tactics runs for SDA. And I think they were all in different formats. The first one was VHS, and then an updated one I did 2 years later was on. I had a DVD player, so I recorded on DVDs. And then a third run I recorded. I guess it was just 3 runs. And the third one was recorded through. It's not OBS. It's what is that software called? I don't use it anymore. But
Is
whatever.
It the one with Split in the name?
No, it wasn't Split. No, it was. I can't think of it now. Whatever it is. It was
I wouldn't know.
Amorek. Thank you.
Oh,
Amorek.
Actually, Amorek. I still use that.
So I used. I stopped using it because now I mean, at the time I didn't have a TV, so I was literally playing in the Amorek capture, and I had horrible input delay, and I still did recorded a segment. It was terrible.
Oh.
I don't know how I did that. I mean, this was at least 15 years ago. It was a wild time back then, but. To get that done in that capacity, it was and it was so much easier. I was thinking to myself, wow, I did this on VHS a few years ago. Now I'm just submitting them, emailing the documents or going through whatever their document transfer system was. It was so much better. And the quality was so much better too. Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
It's the journey from the beginning to the end of FFT. It was interesting in many regards, just from I mean, my first runs were done in my living room because I mean I wasn't even married at the time. I was living on my own, just in my living room with my VHS player. And then the last run was done in my dining room because I was sitting with my laptop in the dining room with no again no TV. I'm just playing. I had the PS2 hooked up to my laptop, running it through Amaranth and just recording it. And I was recording it because I had young kids at the time. I was just recording runs whenever I had a few minutes. I can get one more segment in. Let's get this done. And over time, eventually got a full segmented speedrun done. I mean, an FFT has been a game that I've loved for a long time. I would love to get back into RTA runs of it again, but it's such a long run. And playing so many NES games over the years, I mean, it's like my mental capacity for runs longer than half an hour is tough. So trying to say, yeah, do a 4-hour speed run, I'm like, oh, really? I can't survive 4 hours without having to go to the bathroom or get like that's terrible. It's tough getting old. It's so tough.
So, what about that game makes it like a great speed run?
Well,
it for so long.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is the customization options available. Just for FFT specifically, there have been a variety of methods to run the game. I mean, I even did. And you can look. Obviously, the Speedrun.com leaderboards have various options. The main categories nowadays are just strict any %, which abuses a class that just you can use one character to nuke the whole map in one turn. It's admittedly very boring after a while because you just pick one sequence of options and the whole field is dead and that's it. Or you hope the whole field is dead in one turn. But there's other options that don't use that use a completely different setup where you use other units and use the synergy between them to beat all of the battles as fast as possible. And it's actually not that much longer of a run, oddly enough, if you do it well and get pretty good luck. So, but I can't. I've done the any % for so long. I can't do that category because it's completely different, and my brain can't. My brain has enough any % knowledge in here. I got no more room for this other category. It's not good. There are just the strict amount of options available for and just thinking about the battles themselves. I mean, and this goes back to when I was starting to first learn that when I learned about the game before I even started speedrunning it, just learning how certain mechanics work. And I mean, it all came down to how certain mathematical equations work in the game code. And it had to do, because, I mean, not to get too technical about the internal workings of the game, but essentially every character has a speed value. And, every tick of the game, your speed goes up. When you get to 100 speed, it's your turn. But there's internally the game sometimes counts 100 as exactly 100, but if it's actually 105, then it counts it as 105 for certain things and 100 for certain other things. And that discrepancy allows you to abuse certain mechanics for certain uses so that you don't kill yourself as well as killing everyone else. So it's admittedly more technical than I'm probably even explaining it to be perfectly honest. So, but just the fact that that's possible. I mean, if you go on SCA, my segmented run that's on there, it has a long explanation of what I'm doing and why, and the explanation of how that system works. It's probably got to be a quarter of this document, and the rest of it maybe just be use this setup and just use this over and over and over and over and over again. But the explanation of how the setup itself works, because you do have to slightly modify it depending on what type of battle you're in, because some battles you have to kill everything. Some battles you have to kill just one thing. Or some battles you have to save someone and kill everyone else. So you have to not kill that person you're trying to save and kill everyone else, and that can cause some consternation. So, but just the sheer variety of strategies there definitely made the game very interesting to me. And I still play FFT casually today, just because I can, because it's fun.
Fair enough. So, was that the only game you really focused on back in that time period, or was there an introduction to more stuff?
Yeah,
because of
in that time frame, yeah, that was the main run I focused on, probably from 2006 until 2009, probably, because I definitely did at least 2 runs during that time frame. Actually, there was a third run I had done that did not use that strategy, but used a slightly different strategy. That wasn't. I mean, looking back on that run today, it's very bad. But somebody had asked, "Hey, can you beat the game without using this overpowered strategy?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. I can do this run for you too." And I spent like a month or 2 just crafting this whole other setup, which is not used today for anything. But it's fun. It was interesting. But you get to 2009 or so, if I look at my history here. That took me into the Sega Master System because somebody had submitted a run for Zillion for the Sega Master System. I have no idea if you know anything about
I
Zillion,
do
but
not. I have not heard of that one.
I mean, it's the funny thing is it's based on an anime that I've never seen. And I'm not a big. The funny thing about this, I'm not an anime person, but somebody from the anime speedrun festival 1 or 2 years ago, hey, asked me, "Can you do a Zillion speedrun on our marathon?" I'm like, sure. I don't know anything about anime. I just happened to run this game that has anime or is based on anime, which I thought that was pretty funny. I admitted during the run, I don't watch the anime. I know nothing about it. I just this is a game I played 30 years ago and decided to speedrun it. So, but somebody had done a run of the game that before I even started trying to speedrun it, and it was pretty bad. And I was one of the verifiers, and it got rejected. And that lit a fire in me. It's like I can do better than this run. Let me see if I can get my recording to work on the Sega Master System. And I got it to work, and I did a run, and I think I beat their run by like 10 minutes or something because I was again had been playing the game for a long time and was much more optimized and that was my next big project after Final Fantasy Tactics. I mean, and then after that, I kind of got into more NES games. I started looking at my NES games that I've played, and I thought, okay, let's look at games that I've played before, because that really helps. I'm not really looking into getting to a game I've never played before that just happens to be popular. That's something I've never really done ever. But I was looking at games that I've played, games that no one else has played, because that's if you look at my history, I have a lot of world records in games where I'm just the only time there because no one else plays the game.
Default world
pretty
record,
typical.
easy.
That's the easiest world record ever. Just pick a game that no one has played before, and that's. I'll get into that a little bit in more detail later. Because there's a couple other ones I want to talk about, but yeah, looking at games I've played, looking at games that no one else has played, but games that other people might be interested in because some NES games are just so hard that a game that you may have played in 1990 and you couldn't beat it. It was pre-internet. You couldn't. Nothing made any sense. And you just get the kind of game where you say, I played this game I played it for an hour. I never really got anywhere. How do you beat this game? Yeah. So I went to Robo Warrior. That was the first game that really fit into that definition. Because and that was to me, that was a game that I had never beaten. I had played as a kid. It's essentially, what do I call it? I call it the deforestation simulator. Essentially, you're a robot bombing trees to find items and to get to the end of the level, and you'll beat the bosses every once in a while. That's the gist of the game, basically. But the game is so cryptic that I mean, if you really want to get an idea of how to play the game blind, watch the Mexican runners play through for NESmania. He dies in the first minute, and then he dies again in the second minute because your bombs kill you. The main motion of the game is you laying a bomb and then running out of the blast radius so you don't kill yourself. And it's funny because the Japanese version, I think it's called Bomber King, your bombs actually literally kill you in one shot. The American version only two shots you, so at least if you hit yourself once, you have time to recover. In the Japanese version, no, you're just dead. Doesn't matter. The game doesn't care. So, but the game is also cryptic in other ways because some levels loop infinitely until you pick up a special item called a chalice. And the chalice is, I mean, in the early levels, not all levels, okay, first off, not all levels have one, which is also fun. And the item, if you find it, it's all sparkly, and it's like, ooh, I should probably pick this up. It probably does something, But other levels have it like tucked away in a corner you may not want to go to because maybe you don't have enough bombs. And then the level just goes on forever. Like, am I getting close to the end? I have no idea. And it just keeps on going and going and going, and that's it. So, but to look at that game and obviously after the advent of the internet, I can look at FAQs and say, okay, where's all the items I need? Where's all the special areas? Where are all the bonus levels? Where's all the stuff that I need to beat the game as fast as possible? And to put all that together into a run was very rewarding, especially when my first submission for the game to SCA got rejected for not being good enough.
I hate that they used to do that, but
yeah, I mean, it's I think that actually helped me in the long run because it made me think outside the box more. So, I mean, because my first run, I had done it with a specific goal in mind, because there's a very overpowered item that kills the final boss very quickly. And you can find there's a couple of them scattered throughout the levels, and they're kind of out of the way. But I picked them all up and then used them all to beat the boss in like 5 seconds. And one of the verifiers pointed out that, okay, you did this to beat the final boss in 5 seconds. Alternatively, I mean, and this item like is a clear the screen item. It kills all of the bombable blocks on the screen and does a lot of damage to bosses. But it was pointed out to me, it's like, hey, why don't you, instead of doing that, use that item in the levels to save time in the levels themselves, and then use a slightly weaker weapon against the final boss, which you can then kill in maybe 25 seconds instead of less. Because if you spread out these, 7 items over these specific 7 levels, you'll probably save like 5 minutes in movement in those levels for the cost of a few seconds on the final boss. I saw that and I thought, you know what? You're right. Why didn't I think of that? And I went through the run and did it that way, and I saved and it did other improvements as well, and I saved like 10 minutes. And I submitted that, and like, oh yeah, this runs so much better. I mean, they still kind of nitpick certain things that I didn't really care for, but that's that's the nature of the verification system. So, but that really got me into a mentality of, okay, here you want to get your first idea down, and then say to yourself, okay, now take a step back. Think outside the box. Think of some different idea. Can you use these items that you're picking up in a different way? And maybe doing it that way can save you a lot of time. And that experience really taught me to do that, to look at a run that I've done and say, okay, this run's pretty good. It seems pretty good. I mean, especially in runs that no one else has done, because you're the only person. No one. Most likely, no one else is helping you with the strategizing. So, you got to take a step back on your own and say, can I possibly use these items in a different way? And sometimes you could think of, hey, maybe I should use it over here instead and save time here, maybe lose less time here, and overall, the time save. So, and I've definitely used that in some of the other runs that I've done.
It's cool. See, the way I've always heard it is they just rejected you if they thought it was too slow, right? I didn't know they would like provide input, like, here, maybe try this. Maybe we'll do it again if you're, try this out. That gives me a little better of a idea about it, I guess. But
yeah, no, the times that I had runs rejected for being suboptimal, ideas were always presented. They didn't just say your run's too slow, try again later.
Mm-hmm.
That never happened. At least maybe my experience is not the same as everyone else's, but for me specifically, a lot of ideas were always presented at the time, and me knowing the game and them not necessarily knowing everything about the game, I knew that some ideas were not correct, but there were always ideas that were possible, or things I hadn't thought of. So the feedback there was very important for my overall speedrun development, really. And I definitely kept that in mind, in future speedruns.
Okay, yeah, that sounds a lot better than the way I envisioned how it works.
Yeah, no, it's just like, yeah, too slow, try again, see ya. No, I never did that.
All right, well, that's good then. Never mind.
I'm glad I can change your opinion of SDA from late 2010.
Well, I didn't hate them. I didn't hate them or anything. I mean, we would not be where we are without them. I mean,
That's true.
They started GDQ. They started speedrunning as we know it, for like just having a main hub for talking about all the strats you need, having video presented. I know they didn't really have leaderboards. That was the one thing. Like, people had to make their own wikis and stuff if they wanted that. But for what it was, I mean, it was quite essential for information gathering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely a precursor for something like Speedrun.com, which ended up being an actual leaderboard, obviously. But they always said that their goal was to have high quality videos of the supposed best time that they knew about. That was the overall goal. So that's why they didn't keep, some. If you look at some of the game pages, some of them did have a speedrun history on there. Because I know my brother obviously doing Marble Madness. The Marble Madness page, I think, had a short blurb at the top of the document. It said, "Here's the last 10 times." I mean, obviously with that game, the time is so low that you want to know. Hey, we went from 2 minutes 45.3 to 2 minutes 44.9. That's they're tracking like tenths of a second. I mean, and SDA had a rule back in the day that you had to improve by 1 second or they didn't take it.
Oh,
and then with the advent of things like Marble Madness, like, okay, we can't do that, because I mean, and Super Mario Bros. I'm pretty sure was the same thing. Like, we're saving times in increments of tenths of seconds. This 1 second rule ain't gonna fly anymore, and they eventually came. As far as I know, they eventually got away from that. But I mean, if you look back in 2005, 2006, people weren't saving tenths of seconds. I mean, it wasn't happening back then. People were saving 5 minutes at a time through new strategies. That rule seemed destined to fail eventually, but it was destined. It was definitely it was good to keep a deluge of runs. Like, oh, I saved 3 frames, and here's a new video, and they didn't want to do. They didn't want to be bothered with that. So that's why that rule came about, as far as I know. Not an admin of SDA, so this is purely speculation. That's what I've heard. So yeah,
Fair
I'll
enough.
add the disclaimer right there.
I mean, you were there, so close enough, I guess. But
Exactly, I was there and I was around and I read things.
I do know like old Mario Brothers run specifically because on SDA, when they had the video, they would start off by saying like SDA like time runner the game and all that before the run actually starts.
Yep.
And like old Mario runs would not have milliseconds. It would be like Andrew G 5 flat, Andrew G 459.
Yep.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, I didn't know about the 1 second rule, I guess, but that would explain that. So.
Did you know that frames didn't exist back in 2006? They didn't. They literally didn't exist. Don't ask about
interesting. Them. So there was no frame perfect. It was just you have a whole second to hit an input. Okay,
didn't happen. Yep, that's right.
Makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I'm glad. Again, they had a lot of history. They did care about historical accuracy and providing the information needed to both understand and try it out. So I mean,
for sure,
very cool.
And the forums are still updated every once in a while. I don't think there's a lot of activity on there anymore, but I mean, it's still. I mean, all of the threads from back. I mean, if you go back to 2006 on the FFT thread, they're all. You can see the date that I joined and the first post I made there. It's all still there. So it's nice to have that historical information preserved over time.
Yep, I never used forums on the internet, so I wasn't like I'm not familiar with that whole process, but it is cool that it's all archived. Because that was how people did it.
Yeah, Game FAQs did start eventually archiving certain things, but the stuff from 2006 and that time frame is long gone. You can't find that stuff anymore, which is sad. I would have liked to see it, but sadly not anymore.
Well, at least SDA seems to have it all, so.
Yep,
for the most part. So that's good. So, anything else from that era?
Well, that era. That's the only other game from that era was Dragon Warrior 4. That was another segmented run akin to FFT. Another game that I extensively played in my youth. And I saw there was the people were there was a planning thread, but no one was actually doing anything. And so I got some ideas. I can play this game. I've played it a bunch. I've read various documents about how the game works and what the minimum requirements. I mean, my thing with RPGs, it's fun to figure out the absolute minimum things you need to beat the game, and then see if that's viable. Because I watched Final Fantasy 1 NES speedruns, and like to watch the absolute minimum things that they take into the final boss battle, it blows my mind that you can even beat the game under those conditions. But you can. So, but in this, I did a similar thing with Dragon Warrior 4. My first segmented run was like 60 segments. I beat the game in I don't know, something like 5 hours, and I definitely think that it was too many segments. Now looking back, probably could have cut that in half at least, but it is what it is. But yeah, after that, my kids were born, and after that, I took probably 5 years off, because there's definitely a time, because my daughter was born in 2011, my son born in 2014. I did not do any speedrunning during that time. Obviously, I kind of my first streams were back in 2013, before my son was born. And then after he was born, I didn't stream for a while after that. So there was a little bit of time where I was doing FFT, RTA attempts, but that was pretty much it. And that pretty much persisted until probably 2016 or so, if I had to guess. That started, I think what I came back with in 2016 was TMR was playing Arkanoid for NES Mania. And I don't know if you know much about Arkanoid, but it's a hard game. And it's a game that It's a game. It's probably if not the first game, it's the second game I ever played for the NES. So that was because we going back way back in the day, our parents were divorced, and we would go see our father every other weekend. He would take us to the local 7-Eleven, and it had a little arcade in the corner, and it had Gauntlet, it had Hang On, that old motorcycle racing game, and it had Arkanoid. And 9-year-old me looking at the titles like, what is the name of this game? Now? I couldn't even read the title because the font is really funny. But it was I played the game and got decent at the arcade version, and then we found out, hey, there's a Nintendo Entertainment System coming out, and Arkanoid is on this console. You can play it at home. Crazy, and it even comes with its own funny controller because it has the dial controller, which is only used for this one game. It has no other use in any other game that I'm aware of, and it's pretty fragile. I found out because in my younger day, I would express my frustration by throwing the controller on the ground, and then the controller wouldn't work as well after that, and then you couldn't buy the controller separately. It's like, Dad, can we buy another game? I need another controller. I must have gone through, I don't know, like 4 of those. I can't. I don't know why our parents let me get away with that. Maybe they knew something. I don't know. But that began like the 30+ year journey. I mean, it culminated in AGDQ 24 when I played Arkanoid on the stage. That's definitely my crowning moment. I mean, obviously we'll get to that because it's in the future now. But that's where I started playing the game. TMR, it was chosen for TMR for NES Mania. And he was trying to learn the game. He had the controller, and and you can see probably in his old archives him doing like surgical procedures on this controller to get it to work correctly. Because I mean, I don't know if you saw if you ever seen the final product, he probably had at least 20 rubber bands on this thing holding it together, because he had like taken it apart and taken every little bit apart and cleaned every bit and put it back together, and it wouldn't stay together. It was just held together by rubber bands and nothing else. But he got it to work, so shout outs to him. I don't know how he did that. I've tried taking I have 4 of them. I tried taking them apart. They work worse when I put them back together. I don't know. I'm not. That's not my area of expertise. But a funny thing happened, because he had been playing the game for probably about an hour or so, and he was saying how hard the game is, which I can totally understand, because level 3 has no business being level 3. Level 3 is one of the hardest levels in the game because the blocks are so low to the bottom. And unless you have pinpoint accuracy, which I have because I've been playing the game for 35 years, but somebody who hasn't played the game doesn't have that level of accuracy in the paddle movement. So he's saying about how hard the game is, and I'm in his chat, and I'm telling him, because I mean he expressed out loud, I can't believe anyone's beaten this game at all ever. So I naturally responded, oh, I've beaten this game before, and he said, I don't believe you. Do you have proof that you've beaten this game? And I said no, because I haven't played the game probably in 10 years. I've never streamed this game. I have no visual evidence that I have done so. So therefore he said, no vid, no did. Essentially, he didn't say
Classic.
that. That's essentially what he said. He said, I don't believe you until you prove to me that you've done this. So I said, okay, no problem. The problem with that was that in 2011 or so, I had sold off all of my old video game stuff because I'm going to need this stuff anymore. I sold my Arkanoid controller. I had 2 NES. I sold them both. I didn't have them anymore.
Rookie mistake.
So my solution was to resort to emulator with a mouse. And it wasn't good.
No.
It was not good. I did actually beat the game with the mouse. It probably took me about 45 minutes, and I barely beat the game. And it was... I mean, I can beat the game now in probably about half an hour, pretty regularly with the actual controller. But yeah, it was bad. But I'm like, okay, I did it. All right, I saved a video of it. I sent it to him on Twitter, and I said, okay, I beat the game. Now do you believe me? And I'm pretty sure I can't remember exactly what he said, but he asked me for more information, and he said, it looks like emulator. I don't care about emulator. I mean, that's not playing the game. I'm not playing the game on emulator. I'm playing the game on the cart with the controller the game comes with. Can you do that? So my brother, who was in chat, took it into his own hands, and for my birthday that year, he presented me with an NES, an Arkanoid controller, and the cart. I hooked up to my stream, and I played it that night, and I beat the game that night. And I sent it to Team R, and he said, I believe you now. Good job. Yeah, shout out to my brother who is in chat, obviously. It's he is my tech guy because I am very tech illiterate in many things. He has created all of my emotes. He has supplied me with so much stuff for my stream; it's unbelievable. So, shout out to my brother. But yeah, that caused me to think again. Going back to speedrunning is like, okay, you can beat this game. Can you speedrun this game? So now you have to think about various categories, because obviously everything has categories, because you can play games different ways. The only category that I could come up with was warpless, because you can randomly get a warp capsule, and that lets you skip the level you're on and go to the next level. It's pretty straightforward. You are not required to take these warp capsules. You can take them if you want. If you miss one, yeah, so be it. So my thought was, okay, I'm going to beat the game normal, quote unquote normally, and just if I get a warp, then I take it. But the problem with that is sometimes you get none. I mean, it's a pretty rare capsule, and if you don't get any, then you did warpless accidentally. Good job, whatever. But my PB in that category got 8, I think, in 36 levels, which is pretty ridiculous. The funny thing about that run is that my timer, when I hit done on the timer, it was 28 minutes, 0 seconds, 0.00 seconds.
Oh, nice.
It was 28 minutes exactly. Now, I split late. It was actually a 27:59 point whatever. But my math brain is like, that's such a cool number to stop your split on. I ain't changing it. So I put it on the leaderboard. It's still there. It says 28 flat. So I will. You can tell me it's 27:59. The I split say 28, and I'm not changing it if I ever beat it. So I just left it like that. You can't stop me. I haven't beaten it. I mean, that was probably, I don't know, 6 years ago. I haven't beaten that time since then. So I don't know. Maybe it's destined to be that way forever. Who knows?
So it's just RNG if you get warps, and that's what you need to.
Well, kind of. What I thought at the time was yes. It's just you hit I believe that certain blocks always give a power up if one is not already falling towards the boss, the battle. So that much is not random. What blocks give capsules is not random. Now, what capsule you get from a block, and I did not know this at the time. I would give shout outs to Link7777, who has obviously done many different NES speedruns and speedruns of all kinds of games. He found out the actual formula for what causes certain capsules to appear. The main determinant, as I understand it, is the horizontal position of the boss on the bottom of the screen and the tens digit of your score.
Okay.
Now, why?
Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah. NES programming, at its finest, for sure. But, and you can see this in my AGDQ run that I did back in January, is I showed the first level manipulation. Because if you shoot the ball from a specific spot and hit, if you're in the right position, you'll get the break capsule, that's the warp capsule. You'll get that capsule 100% of the time, every time. It is pixel perfect as far as I know. And the paddle, obviously being 35-year-old technology, is not very stable. So, and I got pretty good at lining up on the correct pixel. It helped on the GDQ stage because they have high definition monitors and they have the best capture you can think of for NES games. I can't do it at home because my setup's not good enough. It's too fuzzy. I'm like looking at the tasks and looking for this pixel. I can't see these pixels on my TV. My screen, it's not good enough. It's not. I mean, the TV's from the 90s probably. So they say line up on a certain pixel. I'm like, I can only guess in like this 3-pixel range or something. I don't know. So that's why I never really bothered beyond. I went through Link on a voice chat and I actually got all of the manipulations because he manipulated the entire game and beat it in about 12 minutes.
Oh my god. And
that is, I can't fathom the amount of work he must have done to accomplish that. That blows my mind. And I will never be able to do it. A, because I can't, because my setup's not good enough. But even if my setup was good enough, I mean, he memorized the entire game, what pixel he has to be on. And some levels require multiple bounces. There's a level that has no power-ups. He had a specific, he's told me he can't play the game at my level, quote-unquote, normally. If he doesn't get the warps, he has to reset. I mean, at least with me, if I don't get a warp, I say, oh, I'll just play the game from here, and I'll do better than I did on my normal runs. But he said he can't play at my level because he hasn't played the game for 35 years like I have. So for him, it's warp or nothing. And you can't, with the manipulations that he has, you can't deviate. If you ever deviate, you're done. You can't get it back.
Because the tens digit, you have to...
Unless you can somehow get the tens digit back to where it should be, maybe you could get it back. But it's so unlikely, I'll say. So...
Wow.
But that's I will always be in awe of his run that he did, and the problem is that it's the main leaderboard, and I don't have the world record on it because his time is 12 minutes and my time is 28 minutes. What can I do? It's the main category. That's it. I am not for as long as I played Arkanoid, I am not the world record holder in Arkanoid. I'm the world record holder in every other category. I haven't played the Japanese version, so there's Japanese specific leaderboards. The Japanese version, you need to the American NES the American VOS controller does not work on the Japanese version, and vice versa. So you need a Japanese VOS controller with the Japanese version of the game. Otherwise, you can't do it, which sucks because I would definitely do it if I could, but the Japanese version has just slight differences, and it has 3 fewer levels, which makes it faster. I don't know why. the arcade version and the Japanese version are the same pretty much, and it's just the American version has slight modifications and 3 more levels. Yeah, they want us to have more fun, I guess. I don't know.
Region differences are just
interesting. They can be a thing. Sometimes it's just language, but sometimes it's actual, total gameplay. So who knows?
Just region locking back then is just fascinating. Like who?
Well, it's so unlikely you'd actually have a specific controller that you need. Otherwise, I mean, you can play the game with the NES controller, and I use play in like the loosest possible term, because you can play the game. If anyone beats the game with the NES controller, I will never play Arkanoid again. The problem is that the dial controller, you can move from the left side to the right side in an instant. You just turn it all the way to the right side and it goes all the way to the right side. The NES controller, if you hit right, it starts moving at a fixed speed, which is very slow. And it's slower than the ball eventually starts moving. So unless you perfectly predict where the ball is going at all times, you ain't getting very far. And the ball goes very fast. So if you watch the AGDQ run, you can see how fast the ball gets. And the fixed speed with the NES controller is much, much slower than that.
Got it. Okay.
So that was 2016, I would say. That kind of got me back into, because my kids were getting older, and then I'm not worried about them, getting up in the middle of the night and things like that. So I started streaming more regularly then. I would say that around that time, that's when if you look at my speedrun history, there's a couple of random games in there that I wanted to do because I had wanted to do them, and I did one run and got them on the really, like SMB1. My time is like a 5:20. I got it on there. It's like I got to run, and it's probably like 1,000th place right now. But I can say I have
5:20 pretty good. Yeah, back then it was pretty good.
Back then it was probably like 300th or so, if I had to guess. I'm like, hey, I'm top 300. That's not bad, and I was happy with that. But there's a couple other games in there. But around that time frame, that's when Zelda 1 Randomizer comes into play. Because the stories, I was not around for their creation. I came in about a year after the whole creation and the first tournament that they had started. But as I recall, as I hear the story, Lack Attack decided one day, he posed the question, hey, what would happen if you randomized where all the items were? Wouldn't that be cool? And Fred Coughlin got wind of that and said, you know what? You're right. I'm a programmer. Hold that thought. I'll be right back. And came up with a program that we use to this day. It's on version 3.5.12 or something like that now. It's had many, many updates throughout the years. And, if you look back at the very first tournament that they did back in 2016, probably, late 2016 if I had to guess, it looks ancient by today's standards, obviously, because of there weren't, it randomized what caves were and where the items were. That was pretty much it. They didn't randomize anything else. If you look at the randomizer options today, you can change the shape of the levels. You can decide if you want to do first quest or second quest or both at the same time. You can change what items do what. You can change the sprites that the items represent. You can mix up all the enemies. Some of the underworld enemies can be in the overworld, and vice versa. And you can make yourself one hit KO. The one that I always laugh at is Blackout. The dungeons are completely dark. You can't see anything. The only way to light them up is with a bomb explosion. You can get a brief flash of what you can see in the room, of the walls. But the rest of the wall, and there's only a dozen different wall formations, so you can kind of feel your way around. But it's just funny watching people, especially playing for the first time, and it's just fucking try to I can't see anything. What am I supposed to do? I can't have a bomb to see every single room. I always thought that was pretty funny. That's a form I don't think I may have played it once and decided, yeah, it's not for me. I'll deal with other stuff. I mean, obviously with the sprite shuffle, shuffling the sprites around. The main quirk about that, which was demonstrated very brilliantly the first time it ever came up in a tournament, is that the sprites that are used can be duplicated. And so the first time sprite shuffle was ever in a tournament, 5 items were a blue key. And I will never forget that because it was I mean it was so funny because they figured that bombs were blue keys and the silver arrows were blue keys and the boomerang was a key, so when you got the magic boomerang it was blue, and it's like, what's hey, a blue key, I wonder what it is. I better pick it up, I have no idea what it is. And it's just thinking about the things where it's come over the years is pretty crazy. And I feel fortunate because I got into it probably around the beginning of 2017, as I recall, and played in the first tournament, which was a random percent tournament. And what that means is that there's also an option in the randomizer program to literally, and I call this randomizing the randomizer. Like you have there are different options you can pick. We pick them on or off, but you can also pick random, and so the game will decide at 50-50. Maybe the sprites are shuffled. Maybe they're not. Maybe the items are shuffled. Maybe not. Maybe the levels are shuffled. Maybe not. And it was very interesting to watch people play. And and the first restreams that we ever did of the tournament, they actually had an overlay where they had like the 12 most common options. Let's say, do we know if this is on or off? And they would tick them off as they figured out. Okay, the dungeons are normal. The caves are not. The items are normal, but it was so much fun. And I did really bad in that tournament, but it was again, trial by fire. It was I only got thrown in. I had a pretty bad luck with my opponent draw. I drew some of the best players, and I was not on that level yet, so I was out very quickly. I played in the next tournament in late 2017, and we did 5 rounds of Swiss, and I came out as the #1 seed. Don't ask me how that happened. I have no idea. I mean, I celebrated that by losing in the first round of the bracket, so that showed you where I was at the time. It was a lot of fun. but I've definitely had. I mean, I still play it to this day. I have a tournament race tomorrow night. Oddly enough, go figure. But I have 3. I have never won a tournament. I have 3 second places, which is good because 2 of them were the Speed Gaming Live tournaments, and got me some money, which was nice. It's nice to get paid for what you do. Not everyone can say that because I mean we generally don't. Generally we do tournaments for fun. It's it's for internet points. It doesn't mean anything. But speaking of live, I think it started in 2020. I think it was pre-pandemic. I can't remember. But they would actually put together a prize pool for various types of tournaments. They had Link to the Past randomizer and Super Metroid randomizer, and so we did one for Z1R and we did. I mean the 2021 online tournament that I got second place in. That's probably my best result ever in a tournament of that size with the caliber of play I had at the time. Because looking back on the people, if you look at the names of the people that I faced, I didn't face anyone that wasn't like top 50 now. That is still, and they all still play. All the people I played then, they all still play now, and they're all probably top 50. So how I went 8-0 through the preliminaries and the first 3 rounds of the bracket, I have no idea. No. But I got to, and I was actually oddly enough facing Fred Coughlin in the finals. Go figure. What are the odds? And I beat him game 1. I'm still undefeated. I'm 1 game from winning the whole freaking tournament and getting the top prize. And then he beat me by a minute in the second race, and he blew me out of the water in the third race. It was closer than that. But I wasn't. It was over. So, but that was, that and the most recent SG Live 2024 online. I kind of had a similar result. I did have 1 loss in the preliminaries, but I still got into the brackets and then swept through the brackets all the way through the end. And lost game 1 in the finals, won game 2, and lost game 3, so I got second place again. So it's again a good result, but you like to win once in a while. but it's been an interesting journey, and in various ways. Z1R has been in GDQ. It was at a year I wasn't there, sadly enough. I think it was 2020. AGDQ 2020, or maybe an SGDQ 2020. I can't remember. It was whatever year it was. I was not there that year. I watched it obviously, but I would have loved to have been there. But the problem I had with that is that they had to do like a really watered down version of the randomizer, because they didn't want to. They only had like a specific time. Obviously, with GDQ, it's like, okay, you got an hour. You got to make sure the flags are beatable in an hour. We're just going to cut you off. And like, okay, well, I guess we can't randomize too many things then, because otherwise, there are some combinations of randomizer that you probably won't beat in an hour and a half. Because if you get a horrible item chain, yeah, it's pretty bad. I still think that if they had a seed that was vetted ahead of time by someone in the community, they probably could have done a little bit more randomization than they did. But I think they randomized only dungeon locations. And to me, that's not really a randomizer. But that wasn't for me to decide. I wasn't there, and it wasn't me, and yeah, it is what it is. So maybe someday we'll get it back. And it's funny because they have a bunch of what they call community hints, which is just random. Like Fred is a big fan of Airplane, the movie Airplane. So there's airplane quotes all over this thing. It's hilarious. But
I like changing the dialogue. Yeah, okay.
Oh, it's so funny sometimes. My favorite, the funny, and I say this many times, my favorite community hint. There are hints that are helpful. It'll tell you Aquamanus awaits with the boomerang. So it'll tell you an item and tell you where an item is. All right. So I was in a seed and I saw the hint come up. It says Aquamanus awaits. I'm like, oh, good. It's in level 1. Aquamanus awaits with a 1995 Dodge Caravan. I laughed for like 5 minutes straight after I saw it. I'm like, the tears were coming out of my eyes. I was like, oh, it seems so weird now, but in the heat of the moment at the time, it was so funny because I was like, this is the hint that I'm waiting for because I want to go level 1 and there's got to be something good in there, and it's a car.
What's that?
There's no cars in Zelda. What are you talking about? I never got over that. But there's a bunch of other ones that are really there's some good ones. It's a shame that back in the early day before the community the community is so much larger than it was obviously back in the day. But there were a lot of hints that were community member specific. Like if you know Crystal Saber, who has won probably at least 4 tournaments, really big in the blindfolded speedrunning scene. He's speedrun blindfolded at a bunch of different Zelda games. But he did very well. He's won at least 4 tournaments, I'm pretty sure. One of the most common community hints was that Saber's in 9 already. Because he's that good. No matter, you can get it the first cave. It's like, I'm behind. Where he's already at 9. How did he do it? I missed that hint. That was smoke. A lot of them were inside jokes that I never got because I wasn't in the beginning of the randomizer, so I never really understood them, and now they're gone. So, but there's a lot of random movie quotes in there. They're all pretty good. Yeah. You like when you see one you haven't seen before, because I've been playing it for 7 years. You think I've seen all the random community hints by now, but as far as I know, he adds new ones with every update. So it's always fun when you get that. He also has a bunch of recorder tunes. Like when you blow the recorder, it's not always the generic. Oddly enough, the generic tune, the usual tune, it is in the shuffle. But on the end screen when you beat the game, it'll tell you what the randomizer tune is or the recorder tune is. And it'll come up as SMB3 whistle. It's the same sound. It's like, oh, yes. You got me. But it's vanilla. It's the same. But no, there's got to be over 100. Like first 10 notes of video game music or a popular song or whatever. It's this, and it's funny. It's fun trying to figure them out because a lot of them are like Final Fantasy type tunes. So the first line is, okay, what Final Fantasy is it? And then ends up being like Earthbound. Like, that. So, but when you hear a new tune that you haven't heard before, it's like, oh, I know that tune from somewhere, and you spend like 5 minutes trying to figure it out. And you get distracted from the quandary that you're in, trying to find a sword. But that's what makes it so fun.
So did they do this tournament like once a year then? Like
they try to do like 2 a year.
Oh, okay.
They try to do one in the winter and one in the summer. It varies depending on scheduling. I mean, the winter tournament, sometimes the tournaments can run long. I mean, the winter tournament had like 90 people in it or something like that. They had a lot of people in this tournament.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you have like 5 rounds of Swiss and then you go to a 64-person bracket, I mean, it's going to take 4 to 5 months. There's only so many hours in the day, only so many, whatever. That's, I mean, the SG Live, they try to condense into like, a 2-month time frame, obviously for timing purposes. Mm-hmm. But they generally try not to go too long with just dead time. The community came up with a good solution for this, what they've done recently. It's called the Triforce Triple Play. They do what they call rookie tournaments. Like if you've never played in a tournament before or done one tournament, you can join this tournament with only the newbies, and all the newbies play together in not a watered down flag set, but an easier flag set. A bunch of them got together probably about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, and came up with the term Triforce Triple Play. They're going to do 3 races on race time, at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and midnight Eastern time every night. And they had it pretty consistent on weeknights. You could, if you had, obviously depending on what time zone you're in, whatever time zone works well for you. Some played in all 3 of them because they just liked it that much. But that really did. It filled the void between tournaments. First off, second off, it got more people interested in the randomizer for sure. Because we had a pretty big rookie tournament the last one, because they've done 3 rookie tournaments and they've had a really good turnout. So they definitely found a way to keep the rookies interested, and not everyone else. It wasn't just for rookies. I mean, I was playing in those, and if they call me a rookie, then I've got problems. But that's neither here nor there. So, but I mean, if you look at the race time leaderboards, I mean, there's got to be 200 people on there, and that's great. I mean, we're never going to be the size of Link to the Past randomizer, but I mean, we're not bad. Definitely a good community. I love it.
Yeah, no, that sounds quite large. I've never been in any tournament nearly that big, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Link to the Past people will tell you about the 512 bracket they did a couple years ago.
What? Oh my God.
I can't even fathom what that must have been like. I've watched a lot of Link to the Past randomizer. I've never played it myself. I actually have an SD2 SNES now. I probably could if I wanted to, but some of the tech they do just seems really confusing. I mean, and to think, think about a bracket of that size, and I mean, we haven't done that in Z1R. I mean, I think the main reason that we usually do Swiss rounds is to give people like 4 or 5 weeks to actually play. That you don't play 2 games and then you're out, and then okay, well, wait 3 months for the next tournament. That's it. So at least you keep people interested in 4 or 5 weeks, and then you narrow it down. If you don't make it, then maybe you do commentary, because I think that was around the time when Z1R started taking off. That's around when speed gaming even started, as I recall, and a lot of speed gaming at the time was Link to the Past randomizer and Z1R, probably. I don't remember specifically, but I remember that being around that time frame. So that may have been what caused speed gaming to become what it is today.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think I've ever watched one of those, because Zelda's not a game I'm all too familiar with. Like, I can do the the screen warp, the screen scroll thing glitch.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get. I mean, block clipping is a lot easier. Some buffers,
I haven't even done that.
there's pretty easy to buffer it, and there's at least like a range of pixels you can be on, and you still get it. Screen scrolling, I am much worse at, because I guess. A, lining it up, and B, actually doing a 1-frame tap. I mean, I've tried watching other people live, how they do that 1-frame tap. I mean, there's people that play on keyboard and do the 1-frame tap, and that blows my mind. I couldn't imagine trying to hit like the up or down key for 1 frame. That just, I don't know. I don't know how people do that, but they do. So
yeah. But when I say I've done it, I mean it takes like 30 seconds, but
oh, yeah. I'm right there with you. That's sometimes I get on the first try and I feel like, oh, I got this. And then the next one, yeah, I give up after a minute. Like, I just should have walked. Just go. It's not worth it.
But
I mean, the fact that that's even a thing. If you go back in the speedrunning history, back to SDA, go back to Zelda 1 vanilla speedruns, and they were trying to figure out, because they obviously if you look back at the TAS at the time, I'm sure the TAS was doing screen scrolling, and the people in the non-TAS community are like, is there a way for us to do this? There's got to be a way for us to do this. And eventually they figured out the 1-frame tap. As long as you're whatever it is, 5 pixels from the side of the screen. I mean, the problem with that is that every TV is different. So if you're not playing on emulator, you got to go to your TV and okay, on my TV it's actually like 10 pixels because of how the screen is, but it's 10 pixels on the right, but only 2 on the left. So you got to know. That's how I've always ended up with my TVs that I've used over the years. I know. Okay, I got to be far away on the right, but I got to be close to the edge on the left. That's how I do it. And I mean, I know people like put like a piece of tape on there, line up with the edge of the tape and then do it, and that'll work for you. But I don't know. Now, I definitely had fun at the SG Live tournament that was done last month, trying to play Z1R in a foreign setting. That was fun. I did not do very well. I guess I'm too used to my own setup. I mean, who knows? That's what it was. So
was that the first time doing it in an in-person setting?
Yeah, that's for sure. It was definitely a different atmosphere. I mean, my first race was done on stage, live on the speed gaming stream. So I had the earbuds in, I had the noise canceling headphones on, and I mean, my main problem with that was that I had just downloaded the randomizer to my work laptop, and I had my work laptop with me. I had forgotten to change all the settings that I used, like the heart color and the like. There's like flashing you can take away, and also using select to swap your items. That's very useful because obviously going to the inventory and coming back is a very slow process. So using the select button to switch quick between items is a huge thing. I didn't have it turned on.
Mm.
So I had to go. I realized that about a minute into the race, I'm like, I can't stop the race and go and regenerate the seat. I'll look like an idiot. So I just dealt with it. Luckily, I won the race anyway. I only won it by like a minute. It could have been a disaster when you're, especially when playing for money. You know, that's not how you want to start. That was not a good start. So I'll know more for next year. I'll be more prepared.
Well, at least it kind of worked out then.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't make it to the bracket, but I had so much fun hanging out with the people there. I mean, it's not often I get to hang out with the people in the community, or at least a small section of the community, you know, in person, which was nice. Yeah. And there were people I hadn't met before in person, which was nice. And I mean, going back to, I think it was AGDQ 2018. It was either 18 or 19. We actually organized a huge Z1R race in the casual room. And we had so many people that we actually had to put half in the casual room and half in the practice room because there were probably like 20 people in this race, all racing live at the same time. So that really, you know, felt like it was bringing the community together. It was a really good feeling.
Yeah, that's cool. I assume like some people, or even a lot of people maybe, that participate in that aren't speedrunners. Like you don't have to be one to do randos.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people who don't have Z1 vanilla times. They only play the randomizer. I mean, some of them they've told me that they don't know the vanilla layout of the levels or of the caves. And I'm thinking to myself, don't you think that would be important information to have? I mean, I don't know. It seems crazy to me in my old brain that you would play a randomizer of a game you don't know vanilla. That doesn't jive in my memory.
Hey, that means they can still play it for the first time, and it's a new experience.
Every time is the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, I get maybe
to them it could just be another rando seed, you know? Like,
yeah,
they don't know.
Every seed is different. That's just the way it should be.
So it works out. Interesting decision, but it's more fun. It's more funny that way.
I mean, and also not everyone is as old as me and has played these games for 30 years. A lot of young kids in the community with their 12-button controllers and whatnot. It's like, I'll show you something. I only need 2 buttons.
Is there like a big age range on people interested in this kind of thing?
Probably. I mean, I haven't asked everyone's age, obviously.
Fair.
I'm definitely on the older side. I'm not the oldest, which I was happy to find out. I felt like I was the oldest, but I'm not really. But there's definitely, you know, players that are 15, 20 years younger, and they're just, you know, enjoyed the game, play the randomizer, and do very well in the randomizer. So that's it. We got probably at least a 20-year, probably 25-year range, if I had to guess, of ages. So pretty good representation, I think. Pretty good international. Pretty good international also. We got a bunch of players that play. They're from Sweden. There's at least 3 or 4 players from Sweden. You know, that's the first one that comes to my mind. There's a couple others that are. You know, obviously time zones are a thing.
Is it harder in power regions too?
There could be. I'm not sure of. Not sure about that.
But all right. Well, do you know like approximately how many people kind of have been involved?
No, that's a good question. I mean, I can look at the Discord. How many are in the Discord?
That'd be a good estimation, I guess. I mean, it sounds pretty popular.
Yeah. No, I can't see it. I guess maybe I'm on a call. Oh well. I mean, if I had to guess, there's probably 300 people in the Discord. If I had to guess. Yeah. So I mean, there's a bunch of people who don't play anymore, obviously, and players that only played in the beginning and you know before the Discord even existed. So yeah, that's. But yeah, there's if you look, I mean, they have a wiki set up.
Oh wow.
That has a lot of history behind the game. It probably has all the brackets for all the tournaments. You can go and look at all the names. I mean, the Speedruns live page is still there. I don't think it's being used anymore, obviously, but because we switched to race time. But if you look at the player list that's probably a better indicator of how many used to play, because you can just go down the list of names. There's probably 200 names on Speedruns live too, and whoever, however many came over to race time, who knows? But I'll never forget because of the way the rankings work. It's kind of weird. It's weird because the code on SRL that was used originally was used for any hack of the game, not just the randomizer. Because the code was TLOZ hacks. That's how you set up races on Speedrun.com. But back in the day, it was for randomizer or any other hack you can think of Z1. So there's a bunch of people on the leaderboard that have never played the randomizer, but it was used for that purpose back in 2015 or something like that. So that's what it is. But yeah, I would say if I had to guess, 300 people is probably a good estimation. It may be more, but yeah, we have a pretty decent sized community, I would say.
Yep, sounds like it. I mean, to have like 2 tournaments a year that are large and on speed gaming, sometimes have cash prizes. It sounds like.
Yeah, so I mean, we do get. I mean, if you look back, the tournament history also shows the list of. I mean, it may not show there. There's probably a separate page for it, but it actually shows how many races do get restreamed. I mean, even in the Swiss stages. I mean, even with 60, 70 people in the tournament, when you're having 30 plus races a week, we can still get probably at least a third of them on speed gaming, which is pretty crazy. I mean, they have other like Randomania and Z1 Randomizer. They have other channels that they use if necessary, and obviously with manpower for commentators and tracking and things like that. But yeah, a lot of races do get restreamed. They're really good about that, and we have a lot of people who love doing commentary. We have people who do commentary who don't actually race, which I thought was pretty good. I mean, if you look at the talent pool of various talents, I mean, we have some people in the community who are announcers by trade, who are, do radio announcing or announcing in person and things like that. They have that radio voice, and you can tell because they know what they're doing. And us who don't have that talent or training, we're just kind of fumbling our way through commentary, and they're the professionals. So you can tell who is and who isn't. But some of them don't even play the randomizer. They love doing commentary, and that's what they do, and they're really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Commentary is always fun. I mean, I'm no good at it, but I've been getting.
I've definitely done my share of commentary over the years. Not as many as I would like, but obviously timing. I can only do commentary on late races, and not everyone stays up as late as I do. So I have done. Let's see, I've done commentary at 7 a.m. in the morning. That was fun. That was one of our early risers versus one of our Swedish players, as I recall. So that was fun. I did that on a Saturday during tax season. I was getting up for work anyway. Like, okay, I got an hour to kill. I'll do commentary, sure. I've actually done a race at 1 a.m. my time against one of the French players who obviously was 7 a.m. his time. So early morning for him, late at night for me. It was all good. So a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. Well, cool community. I mean, if anyone's interested, how do they just find more info?
Yeah, the Discord, I'm sure is out there. I don't have a link to it handy, but it should be pretty easy to find. And it has links to the randomizer tool itself, and we can get you started real easy if you're interested. If you played the vanilla game a lot and were ever wondering what would happen if everything was moved around, maybe it's for you.
Well, sounds good. So, getting back into the speedrun side of things, I don't know how much time this took out of the rest of your history, but surely there's some other things.
A decent chunk, I would say.
Yeah,
a decent chunk. I mean, especially as they still play it today. So it's kind of my history kind of goes. It ebbs and flows. Like, am I in a tournament? Okay, I'm probably only doing Z1R stuff during tournaments. In between tournaments, then I'm doing other stuff. So, or I may just do random races every once in a while, depending on what's going on. But yeah, looking back at my history, now we're starting into the co-op aspect. Again, shouts to my brother in chat. My brother has not been streaming as long as me, has not been speedrunning as long as me, but he has caught up very quickly. And we decided one day, you know what, we should do. I joke about this because in our younger years we played competitively, we played against each other. We play like Tecmo Super Bowl, and we play against each other, and every result was somebody screaming in pain and throwing the controller, and it was all over. But whatever. And then we decided in our 20s, like, you know what? There are so many cooperative games out there. Maybe we should play on the same team. Maybe that we have a little more fun. So that begat the monthly stream that we do. Oh, and thanks to my brother putting the Discord in chat. Thank you. But so we decided that the last Saturday of every month, I would go over to his house, and we would do co-op streams. And we have a bunch of different co-op games in the NES library that we've done over the years. As I recall, we started with what did we start with? It wasn't Marble Madness? Was it Marble Madness? I honestly can't remember. It's been too long.
Sounds like it would be.
I think Marble Madness. That sounds right. I think that it was either that or no. Any other answer doesn't make any sense. Looking at the list of co-op games that we've done, because Gauntlet came later, and a lot of Snake Rattle and Roll came later. All the other, and Rare City Ransom came later, so it's probably Marbles, if I had to guess. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Because that was he was running Marble Madness at the time, solo, obviously. And then we were looking at the co-op world record, which was pretty bad at the time, that we eventually found out. And Legendary Wings, yeah, that was more of a one-off, though. that was a good game, though. But yeah, we looked at the co-op world record, it was pretty bad at the time, it was like 317. And we said, yeah, we can beat that. I mean, my brother's a world record holder, or was close to it at the time, and I was okay at it. I beat the game 20 years before he did, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, my time on leaderboard, it's 248. That's decent. I'm that's top 30 probably.
I have a 355. So.
All right, well there you go. See, you have so much room for improvement you don't even know. But we got together and we tried to figure out strategies for co-op, because obviously the game is not the same co-op as it is single player. And we eventually got a run, and we got to coin the term "Yells Choke."
Ah, great, yes.
Because we got a run. Yeah, we got a run where I don't think I had any deaths at all. I can't remember exactly, but I think I may have had one or two. But I finished first, and he was coming, and I'm looking at the time, and the world record was 317 and some amount of milliseconds. And I crossed the line, and it's like 312. And I'm thinking to myself, this is it. This is gonna be a massive world record. We're about to get it. And he goes down the final path to the goal, and he comes up short, and he dies. And I go, no, not like this, not like this. And he recovered. He went, oh, and then he respawned and got through. And we beat the world record by, what was it, 3 frames? We got world record by, it was a very, very small world record. I think there's a YouTube video, either on his channel or on Ellipsis, the former world record holder's channel, with a comparison side by side of our run, and Ellipsis and Toad did a run, but that was the old 317. And it's hilarious to see how it wasn't consistent the whole way through. It was so close the entire time. We would take a small lead, and they would take a small lead, and they would take a little mistake, and and they came through at the end, and then we finished so many frames ahead of them. I definitely like to watch that every once in a while, just to see how these two seemingly different runs came together at the end to be so close together. It was really crazy. But that started us to thinking, okay, what other co-op games could we play? And we came up with a list. I mean, I literally Googled Nintendo Entertainment System co-op games because I didn't know how many there were, and we came up with a long list of games to play. Sadly, we haven't played all of them, which is unfortunate. I mean, things like Chippendale. I mean, there are so many people playing that co-op, but we never played the game as a kid, or at least I didn't. So we tried that once, and I mean, maybe we'll go back to it someday, but it wasn't for us at the time. So, but we've come up with. I mean, he mentioned Legendary Wings. We played Rampage. We've done Vindicators, and we later do Bubble Bobble. He's not a fan of Bubble Bobble. I'm a bigger fan of that than him. But we got one co-op run and we're done. So we'll have to that. But then that kind of gets us to Gauntlet in 2021 or 2022, somewhere around that time frame. Because we were thinking about ideas, and at this point, no one was really playing Gauntlet that I'm aware of. I mean, Feasel had done Gauntlet at various GDQs over the years. Never really had any good luck. I don't think he ever actually technically finished a GDQ run, which is pretty funny because, I think he did it in 2011 and then 2014 and then 2016. I don't think he finished any of those runs technically without continuing. And at the time, it was an incredibly RNG dependent game. Like sometimes the game just says, no, you're not going to finish. No, here's a coin flip. The exit's here? No, it's down there. So, sorry, you're going to lose. There's nothing you do. But no, we pick up the game probably in 2021 or so, late 21, probably early 22, probably around that time frame. I started playing it single player because I had never actually beaten the game, and I knew about it, and it was again one of those games I played way back in the day. You know, it was fun to fool around for a while, but the last world is so hard. If you don't know where anything is, the last world is so hard because it's so cryptic, and you know, pre-internet. I mean, who knew that the passwords were all? There are only 32 passwords. I mean, no one knew this. It's you know, I mean, unless you did all the data mining to say, hey, my continue code starts with an A. You know, here's my password. It works. It's the same every time. How'd they know? It's
Hmm.
but I pick it up, and the world record at the time was 14:25, I think, somewhere around there for single player. And I picked up, and we joined the Discord later, which is pretty funny because I wasn't even in the Discord. I was just watching old runs. I watched them run the leaderboard and trying to emulate what they were doing. And I started getting times in the 15-minute range. I got sub 15, got 14:40 something, and you know, I was doing good. And then I got a run that was like 30 seconds ahead because I got really good luck on the randomness that, you know, well, I'll get to how we control the randomness now. But at the time we weren't. So we're just hoping to get lucky. I got really lucky. I'm half a minute ahead into the last section. I'm on, you know, 14:15 pace, something like that. You know, I'm getting nervous. Thank goodness I don't have a heart monitor. I was 150. I don't know what it is. I'll give some time back in the last world, but I'm still still in. I still got a chance. And there's one of my most viewed clips on my channel is my finish. When I kill the dragon at the end, because you got to kill the dragon, you go around and hit this tile that opens up the orb at the end. You have to collect before you get in the exit. And I unfortunately take a lot of damage on the way to the tile, and come around the corner, go through the last tile to get to the orb, come back and hit the exit, and there was an enemy still alive. And he killed me in the exit. And I hit the timer thinking I had finished. Hit the timer, I had tied the world record. And I thought, yes! And the screen came up. Game over. I took my headphones off, I stood up, and I walked away. I came back about 2 minutes later, headphones back on, and I said, shit run, let's go again. Start next run.
Based, yes.
Yeah.
So what, it can just spawn in the exit? Or
no, what happens is that when you hit the exit, you swirl, as you can see in my brother's email.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You swirl. When you're swirling, you are still vulnerable.
What? No.
Yeah. If there was an enemy like off to the side, I didn't even notice it because you had to run past the exit to get to the orb and then you come back. There was an enemy there, I didn't even see it. I just ran past and I had like 10 health left. And I got to the orb and came back and went in the exit and it killed me in the exit.
That's
because the swirl takes, what does it take, like one full second, something like that. During that 1 second of the swirl, you are still vulnerable, and I got killed in the exit on a tied world record pace. Eventually, it's funny that Unos, the former world record holder, he timed my run just for fun, and I hit my split too soon anyway. It would have been a 14:26 if I hadn't died. So I would have not been, because I had forgotten in my haste to finish and not die that the final split is after the fade out, after you stop swirling. I hit it when I started the swirl before I died, but the time actually ends after that. So it would have been 14:26. So some small consolation that would not have actually been world record, but I think like 2 weeks later I got a 14:18, and that was the world record. That was the pop off, and you know,
it all worked out. Good. It's fine.
It all worked out in the end. It all worked out in the end.
Love to hear it.
Yep.
That's unfortunate, but very funny.
It's looking back, it was so funny, for sure. But then, as history would show, things changed, as they always do in speedrunning. I went on vacation in August of 2022, holding the world record, and you know, a couple of others who were close to the leaderboard were trying to beat me, but they hadn't succeeded yet. And I went away I went to see my parents for a week, take my kids to see my parents for a week. And I came back and I was, I think, 4th on the leaderboard.
Damn.
And I went, huh? Did I miss something? What's going on? I mean, and the time now was like 13:50 something. It was like 20 seconds ahead. Because I really wasn't online much while I was on vacation. I was trying not to be because I was on vacation. So I was looking at the Discord and I saw some like talk of strategizing and whatnot that I didn't really pay attention to it very much. And I saw the word manipulation in there, but I'm like, I can't think about that right now. I'm on vacation, so it's okay. But what they found out was they actually dug into the code to find out how random exits are determined, because all the treasure rooms that come up, some of them they all have a bunch of different spots the exit can be. Obviously, if you guess the right corner first, then you save a lot of time. Makes sense. But it wasn't known if you could figure out, or if you could, do something like button presses. If you do a certain button press, okay, when you hold left or something, the exit will always be here, so you know where to go instead of trying to guess. And what they found out was there was a pause buffer essentially that you could do, and holding buttons down, and that either guaranteed an exit at a certain spot or drastically reduced the number of options that you would get. And suddenly, a lot of the RNG disappeared. Because World 4 is the worst. Because there are teleporters. And teleporters, you can control what corner or what direction you come out of a teleporter. But if there's multiple teleporters on the screen, you cannot control which one you go to. There's no way. It just picks one at random. And the treasure rooms in World 4 have 16 exits. One is real. The rest are fake. And they all look the same. The only way you can figure out the right one is by trying them all. So, pre-RNG manipulation, you would randomly teleport and hope you guessed right. That was it. And if you didn't guess right and the timer ran out, well, then you lost 30 seconds. Congratulations. And there's one of the funniest runs on the leaderboard, I believe, is Cananophone. And he got first exit in both World 4 treasure rooms. And all of a sudden he's like a minute ahead. I'm like, wow, how did you do that? That's incredible. And he only ended up like a 15. I think he had like a 15:02 or something like that, because obviously he lost time to other RNG stuff. But that shows you that it can be possible to get first try both times. Most of the times you would get one exit and not the other if you got lucky. And we tried some various ways to test as many. 1501, thank you. We tested as many as possible, and you could probably test at least 7 or 8 with some reliability. But that just means a lot of runs die in World 4 because you need to get the exit because you gotta save time and you can't afford to lose time. So, but we found out that by pause buffering, it's not. I'm again kind of dumbing this down because it's a very convoluted series of button presses in some cases. But essentially, you pause the game, which resets the value of that exit to a certain spot, and then unpause and hold a button and release that button to transition to the map and then to the next screen. That locks in place where the exit is most of the time. So in World 4, and in World 4, in both cases, it locks it into one spot, and you know where it is. So that, and it's like 2 teleports away, and there's a way to get that spot every time. I found that the game kind of helps you out sometimes in this case. It actually tries to get you to a teleporter closer to that exit for some reason. I haven't figured out why, but whatever. Don't question the game. So, but that. Just these small time saves over time, over the time, it made it saved so much time that now my 1418 is the pre-manipulation world record, because no one will ever do it again. That'll be my claim to fame, is having the last pre-manipulation world record. I currently have a 1338, which is 2 seconds off the world record of 1336. I've been trying to get 1336. Guggenselly, who has the world record, his run is really, really good. The other trick that's done in the run is what we call flow key. It essentially, you underflow your keys from 1 to 0 to 255 by opening 2 doors at once, or open a door and then 1 frame later open another door when you only have 1 key, and it only checks every other frame for keys. So you underflow your keys and you don't have to pick up keys the rest of the run. It saves probably 10 seconds. But when you're at where I am now, I have to get this, and it's like a pixel perfect movement to get it, and I get it. Half the time, maybe, if I'm doing well. But if you don't get it, I reset, because I can't afford to lose 10 seconds. So for those who are the up and coming runners, I definitely recommend you try flow key. But if you don't get it, then just keep going, because it doesn't save as much time as you might think. Because the keys you don't really go out of your way for keys. It's just the small time saves over the course of the run. Probably adds up to about 10 seconds, if I had to guess. So. But running a co-op, we decided to say, okay, we couldn't find any co-op, playthroughs, because they had done co-op. Feasel and Mythical had done a co-op run at AGDQ 2017, I think. And the funniest thing about that is if you look at the YouTube video from the GDQ channel, the first thing you see is my brother.
Hmm.
He's sitting in the audience. Before they cut to the runners, they're in the audience. He's sitting right in front of the camera right there. And I'm sitting next to him, but I'm off camera. You can't see me. Because it was, I don't know, what was it, like 6 in the morning of that day? I can't remember. It was like really early in the morning. It was we were watching all the NES block games. And, oh, was it 1502? Okay, good. I'm not my glasses. I can't see the chat. But it's hilarious that looking back, because we weren't playing Gauntlet in 2017. We didn't start until like 5 years later. But the first thing you see in the video is him. It's
the prophecy.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. We knew. But we looked at that thinking, okay, how can we do this co-op? Because co-op presents a whole host of other problems. You see them in the run that Feasel and Mythical did. It's funny because I don't think... I mean, this gets back to the whole... If you look at old GDQ videos and the runs that were accepted back in 2011, 12, 13, 14, it definitely, at the time, seemed like they didn't have the level of submissions that they do now, obviously, which makes a lot of sense. But they definitely accepted some runs from players who didn't necessarily know the games as well as you might think to be on the GDQ stage.
Halo 2. Oh,
yeah, because it's, I mean, Feasel and Mythical don't have a co-op run on the leaderboard on speedrun.com. It doesn't exist. So as far as I know, Feasel submitted it for GDQ and said, I want to do co-op. With who? I'll find somebody. Don't worry about it. I got this. He had done solo runs 3 times previously. I'm not going to turn him down. So they may have just gotten in on his name recognition only. I mean, I don't know. Again, not staff. Can't attest that being true. That's just my thoughts. But they had a very good plan for the run, watching the run back. They definitely collected a lot of treasure, because treasure, increasing your score increases your maximum health, so it increases your chances of surviving to the end. And again, pre-RNG manipulation, they had to deal with it. And it's unfortunate that Mythical died in the final room on the way to the orb. He was so close, and he died at the very end. So it was almost a valid run, but not quite. And that was one of our selling points when we submitted the co-op run to SGDQ 23, is that, there's been a co-op run at GDQ. They didn't finish. We can finish. We'll have we can do the first legitimate co-op finish on the stream. How about that? So that was a good selling point I think we had for that. But it did present a whole host of problems, because resource management is a problem. Halfway through the run, you get a speed potion that causes you to run faster. It only makes one player run faster. So only one person getting it makes no sense, because you're still limited to the speed of the slower person. Luckily, there's 2 speed potions, and they're about 3 levels apart. You have to go to a level you don't go to normally in the regular run. And so it's a bit of a diversion, probably about 45 seconds, if I had to guess, to get a second speed potion. But then, obviously, now you're reaping the time savings from having both players run at the same speed. And the main quirk about the game that I think is most important is that when there's an item called a bomb. The bomb clears the screen, or it does. I mean, depending on your character's magic stat, it does damage to everything on the screen. And the elf that we use has good magic power, so it does a lot of damage. It doesn't necessarily kill everything, but it does a lot of damage. But what they found out in the co-op run is that if one person is moving, bombs are very ineffective, and they stop working. So you have to, if you're going to use a bomb, you better stop. Otherwise, you're wasting a bomb for nothing. And there's only so many bombs in the run, too. And you'll see in the final, 10 levels or so, we're using bombs everywhere, because the final world is so crazy that, we hoard bombs for the last 2 levels alone. You use probably 6 bombs, because the enemies are so tough that they will kill you very, very quickly if you don't bomb them out of existence. So that is crucial to just surviving at all in the run for both players to get to the end. And if you're not coordinating movement correctly, then you got no chance, even with a lot of extra health, as they found out, because they each got up to the 400 score, which gave them like 1,300 health each, I think. In our run at GDQ, I got to 50. And my brother got to 100, probably, I think. I think he got to the 100. So I have, 900 health, and he's got 1,000 or so. And But luckily, with our practice ahead of time, it was not a problem. But without RNG manipulation, it could very well be a problem. But the run went very well. I think we beat it in about 18 minutes at GDQ. Our record is 16:30 something. I'm sure my brother can post the exact time. We found out some more strats after the GDQ run that we implemented, so that was nice. We definitely took some safeties, obviously. I mean, even with, and this is hilarious to think about, is even with all the planning and we because there's so many exits in the game that take you to nowhere, useful, and if you go that way, you're probably dead because they're in rooms that are terrible and you don't go to them because there's nothing useful there and they're out of the way. And so we had at least 2 or 3 safeties put in play to say, okay, if this happens, here's how we fix it. And so we have backups in case. So we picked up extra keys and extra bombs that we wouldn't normally in case things happen. And nothing went wrong until the end, because the 3-headed dragon at the end is unusual because the 3 heads act independently and they don't activate until you shoot them. So obviously the strat is to what we do now is we kill the 2 side heads first, because you can shoot ahead. And if you are all the way up as close as you can and all the way to one side, the shots hit the middle head, so they don't hit you. So you can just shoot, and then shoot, and then shoot, and then shoot, and go back and forth, and you never take any damage. So, and the most important thing there is not to shoot the middle head also, because it then wake you up, and then it'll start killing you. Which is exactly what I did in the GDQ run.
Oh.
I shot the middle head. And you can hear me audibly say, I think I said, "Oh shit," when I shot the middle head, because that was not part of the plan, and that's a quick way to death.
Quick way to get banned.
And now I'm ready to panic because okay, we did everything else right, all the preparation. This is my first time on the GDQ stage playing a game, and it's all down to this, and I shoot the wrong head. And I luckily, in the heat of the moment, I remembered that using a bomb puts the heads back to sleep. So, I mean, and he's starting to panic too, because the second player does nothing during this fight, because the second player doesn't have any shot power upgrades. It would be useless for him to join the fight. He would just die. So he stays like out under a wall at the bottom to stay out of the way. And so he's like saying, "Come back, come back, come back. We got to do something." And luckily he stopped moving, and I stopped and used the bomb, put the head back to sleep. My second shot did hit the correct head, but luckily we picked up 2 extra bombs as safeties. And we needed them both, because I used my last bomb to put the dragon back to sleep. And then after that, there's a spot where I would bomb one more time to clear out the enemies around the tile that opens up the way to the orb. And I told him, "Your bomb. You got to use your bombs, because you're extras. You got to use them, because I don't have any bombs left." And he did, and it was fine. But, the panic.
Nothing like a tense moment at the end, right?
Yes, correct. So
I'm trying to remember, because I saw this run in the room, but... So I'm trying to remember back.
Yeah, it was very tense at the end. I mean, and Bokanon Lives did commentary for us, and he had a whole script written out, and he did a great job. I loved the chat, loved his commentary, because he really was well prepared with. He timed what he was saying as we were doing things on screen. It really worked out really well. So that was good. And we did a bad exit showcase afterwards, where we showed like the 5 worst things the game can do. that some people, if you got that far in the game, you probably experienced. Like, there's an exit that takes you back 60 levels. There's an exit that takes you back to the title screen.
Wonderful.
Which I mean, one of the greatest things ever, if you ask me. It was great.
Yeah, I do remember the bad exit at the end.
Yeah,
you saying that is making me recall some things. So, but yeah, I definitely remember watching it. It's just hard to remember all the intricate details, but.
Yeah.
I'll need a refresher later.
If I may, can I take a quick bathroom break? I'll be right back.
I don't see why not.
All right, thank you.
Well, any questions, chat, or anything while we're here? Because I've got nothing interesting to input. Yes, hello. It is just me. How's my night? Pretty good. I leave for PACE tomorrow, so that's fun. I got into GDQ. I got 2 runs in. Pretty happy about that. Overall good day. Can't complain. The games list is Pog. very excited, and we'll get into that later because someone here got into. Anyway, hello, welcome back.
All right, we'll just cut that part out.
Well, I don't edit these
That's all right.
videos, so
Just say don't watch that 30 seconds right there. I'm sure you just talked about the secrets of life, and now I will never know them. So
Sure, let's go with that.
it is what it is. I'll have to watch it back during that time to see what you said. So that's all right.
You didn't miss much, don't worry. Anyway, was that the end of the?
Yeah, that was pretty much the end of the
arc?
the gauntlet part. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, got it.
All right. So next, well, I guess if you're sticking to the co-op schedule, and I guess leaning into upcoming AGDQ 2025. After the gauntlet experience, we said, okay, we need a new co-op game. So we looked over the NES list again, and now my wife comes into play because she had been telling me for a long time, hey. There's a game I used to play way back in the day. You guys should play it on the stream. It's called Snake, Rattle, and Roll. Now, I had, oddly enough, I was the stream tech at AGDQ 2015 when PJ and Feasel did a co-op warpless Snake, Rattle, and Roll run. You can hear me in the video, on the YouTube video, because at the end you can hear me announce their time because I was operating the timer. So I'm part of that video. Again, foreshadowing, maybe. We'll see.
That is pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah.
The prophecy just keeps sticking.
They just keep coming up. I mean, I don't know. The universe knows something. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely a different game because it's definitely a game that I had tried to play at one time and was terrible at it, and then gave up because it's. If anyone who's played that game knows that game is. That game is.
So I've heard.
I mean, we luckily having played Marble Madness a lot. The isometric part is kind of helped. I would say the skills with that helped a bit. Not enough to help our first co-op attempts. The story goes, we decided to give this run a shot co-op in the warp category because I have beaten the game warpless twice ever. And I may never play it again because the levels that you skip without the warp are incredibly hard. At least the levels at the end are hard, but we've played them so much that they're not as hard anymore. So go figure that one out. Oddly enough, playing in the warpless category, I hope I get to level 8 because then I can get back to any percent. Like, okay, I'm safe now. But the levels in between that you skip over, those are the hard levels. So, but we spent at least 3 hours the first co-op stream just learning movement because the movement is that bad. I mean, we did not even attempt one run the first night. I mean, I had not. I mean, I kind of wish that we had separately tried any percent attempts solo first to get used to the movement. It ended up going the other way around. We ended up using that. We would then, because obviously we only stream once a month co-op. So after that night, we agreed to try solo attempts to try to get better, to get better solo times, and then come back next month with our newly found solo playing skills and actually play the game properly. And it worked. Yes, it was brutal. Yes, it was. Yeah, it ended up working out pretty well. We found that the lag is very bad when going from solo to co-op. That's actually not a surprise at all because that's an NES game thing for co-op. That's generally lag is a thing. But it also was problematic trying to figure out the actual mechanics of advancing through the game because, I mean, the idea is that you eat what they call nibbly pibblies to increase your snake's weight to press a button that opens the door. It does account for you have a starting mass. So in co-op, you don't collect as many of them because you have 2 snakes instead of 1. But we were getting different results as to how many you actually needed to open the door or whatever you needed to open. And we didn't understand why. It didn't make any sense. So we just we have on the splits how many we think we need, with the caveat of, hey, if you hear the door open ahead of time, just go to the door. And then we go after, how many did we get? Were we one short? I don't know. The door opened. Let's just go. Don't try to figure it out. But yeah, we played that for a while. We got some really good co-op times. We actually got into a bit of a battle with Sinstream and TFX, who were also doing co-op Snake Round Roll attempts. We traded that world record back and forth a few times over a few months. But I definitely recommend you watch the most recent world record run, which came out to a 5:04, which had beaten it crushed the world record, because I think their best time was 5:20 something. I mean, and we've been trading it back and forth like by 1 or 2 seconds each a few times, and but we got probably the best RNG we've ever had, because the problem is that how the nibbly pibblies come out is that some of them, and that's not in the first stage, in stages 9 and 10, they're shot out of a cannon essentially, and they bounce a few times and then they become edible. Sometimes they become bombs. Oh. You can't eat the bombs. If you're near the bombs explode, you die. You don't want that.
That's how bombs work, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, for sure. But back to my Robo Warrior training. See a bomb, run away from a bomb. Yeah, don't do that. But I think we had 2 bombs total in the world record run, which is insane. You just never see that. And it's funny watching it back, because he was not looking at the splits, because he had a foot pedal. He has a foot pedal, so he was controlling the splits. He wasn't looking at them though. I was looking at him, and when I saw we had like a 9-second gold level 10 split, I thought, I hope we beat the final boss in this run, because we're never going to get this lucky again. Because the problem with the final boss is that it's a foot. And if you don't keep hitting the foot, it automatically regenerates all its health in about 1 second. So the goal is to get close to it and mash. This gets back into the mash we talked about earlier. This is the time when mashing comes into play. But luckily you can mash. Today. It is. You can, but if you mash together and the foot stops moving because of all the lag, it stops moving, and you keep hitting it, and you hopefully kill it in 1 or 2 bounce. It bounces around. If you don't kill it by the second bounce, it starts moving into an area where you can get crushed by rolling boulders that are flying around, and then it runs over, because you can't kill it before you die. But we did it, and he did not look at the splits until, because you kill the ball, you kill the foot. You go up in the top corner and you wait for your UFO, your spaceship to come down and rescue you. So it's like this 10-second animation of a ship coming down. You get in, the final split is hit, and then you fly away. And so then he looked at the split, and celebration. It was I doubt we'll be able to replicate that luck. We'd love to get sub 5, which is definitely our sum of best is 456 or something like that. But to get that kind of luck again. Does that sound
familiar?
That's yeah, doesn't it though? Sounds like some other game I know. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, it's not. It was a hot game for a while, but man, it's a hard game. And we set our estimate for GDQ. We're playing it. We're playing this category in GDQ in January. We have an 8-minute
announced
estimate.
Today. Yeah.
Announced today. Came out today. We are in. So
as of the live stream, of course.
Yes, perfect timing. An 8-minute estimate should be good in case everything goes horribly wrong. Luckily, you have 3 lives and 2 continues. Hopefully, you don't need them all, but you can very quickly go through them, because everything is trying to kill you, and ice physics and slanted platforms. That's all you need to know.
Yes.
That's what the first stream that we had was all just learning movement tech. I mean, we probably spent at least an hour and a half just on level 10 alone. I mean, level 10. I mean, just imagine a platform that's ice. So you're slipping around everywhere. And there's nothing behind the slanted platform. There's void. You go too far, you're going to die. Yeah, that's the final climb is that step like 5 times. And then you got to jump to the door, which is in the middle of a wall with nothing under it. So you bet if you hit the door, you're good. If you miss the door, you're dead. Luckily, you respawn. But it's, I mean, the YouTube video I think encapsulates how this happened really well, because that night we got the world record, we played for 3 hours and never even got to the final boss on pace. Not even close. Because I mean, RNG, we know about it. We know it. We love it. We hate it. Yeah,
I hate it.
It is what it is. It's exactly. But we finally got a run on pace. And I think if the run had finished properly, it probably would have been a 5:10. It would have been a very nice world record, for sure. It would have been a big improvement. But I jumped for the door. I made the jump. He jumped for the door. He missed. He respawned, jumped for the door, missed again. Game over. We got to wait for the continue to come up. I'm watching the clock. We're still green. I mean, and I'm like, he's like all despondent. He's ready to reset. I'm like, dude, we're still green. You respawn and get in the door. He gets in the door, and we're like minus 0.2.
PB.
Like, all right, we can still PB, and then we die on the foot. I'm like, it's all over.
Right.
Whatever. Okay, we probably should have reset. But the very next run was the world record. Literally right after that.
Nice.
After playing for 3 hours, nothing but frustration. We got a great run, and it didn't work out at the end. And like, oh, and it's like 1:30 in the morning. Like, I'm just gonna go home. I mean, we're not gonna get that again. Luckily, we did one more attempt, and that was it. We played it some last weekend, that or the weekend before, and we struggled. we hadn't played much in a while, but we struggled to get like a time of about 6 minutes, because it's the 6 minute barrier is really about where you'd expect to be given average luck, I would say. Average luck and expecting a few deaths every now and then, because again the movement is it's really bad. It's really if you haven't played it before. I think what he said is cardinal directions. Always cardinal direction. I think it's if you angle the NES controller to the right. So, left is up left, and up is upright, that kind of thing. But if you start hitting diagonals on slanted, icy platforms, you are going to die. It doesn't, the ice collision, no diagonals, only cardinal directions. So that's the best advice I can give for anyone trying to attempt level 10.
And diagonals are very easy to hit when you don't want to. So.
Oh, you want to hit it so bad. You want to hit it. I always want to hit so bad, and that was why I died so much in the practice runs from the very first stream. I kept hitting diagonals, thinking, "What's going on here?" But yeah, definitely only cardinal directions. Yes, your cardinal's supposed to be pure. Yes, that's right.
And it is hard to have pure cardinals directions.
It is very hard because with isometric games you don't want to hit. You don't want to hit cardinal directions. You want to hit diagonals. It makes sense. But
also true.
Don't recommend. So.
Well, fun game.
Well, yeah. So that's pretty much where we are now. I mean, I did skip over a lot of games that I have played only once, and probably will never play again, because there were games I was interested in for a short time. Want to get time on the leaderboard. I mean, you can see my speedrun.com page. And as far as GDQs go, I've been going to GDQs for many years. First year I attended was AGDQ 2013.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I mean, talking about the history of GDQ, I watched the classic Done Quick stream from 2010.
Live.
I watched that stream. Wow. Yeah, I watched it live. And it was January. It was New Year's Day, I think. New Year's Day through the 3rd of January, I think. And yeah, that was. It's funny looking at that stream back then and how it looks today. They didn't even have a timer on the stream.
Oh yeah, they didn't.
That wasn't even a thing back then. They just said they had the schedule put together.
Audio
for 72 hours.
Too.
Yeah. But I mean I remember the one race they did was Kung Fu, I think.
Yeah, and they had to have a
the left TV. The left capture was the TV. Yeah. The right capture was like a handheld from the other screen. It looked so bad.
I remember seeing.
I looked at that thinking, you can't even see what the other player is doing. I can't. It's so the quality. Blurry. It's not there. But that's what they had. And then obviously they had a Marble Madness quote unquote race with MTI and PJ, I think. Was it? I can't remember. And they asked, obviously my brother doing 2 players, 1 player, 2 controllers, asked he reprised that 10 years later for the 10-year anniversary. But then in that run, they had Andrew G. Oh, it was Andrew G. I'm sorry, not PJ. Andrew G. They had Andrew G's Sabotage, because it was not well known at the time that at the very end of the game, the Black Marble Steely, if you don't despawn him or kill him at the top, and you go halfway through the ultimate race at the very bottom, the game crashes.
Oh, nice.
And that didn't happen. And Andrew G was losing, and he fell off the platform at the end. And oh, he's done. And then MTI got to the bottom, and the game crashed. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Andrew G sabotaged the game, like he stomped the floor and turned the console off or something. We don't know what he did. We know now what he did. We know now what happened. But back then, good times.
So, but you just can't beat the game co-op?
No, you can't. It's the game. And my brother and I, over the course of a few, Marble Madness streams, that is not the only level that can crash. There are other situations where the game just has too many things on the screen, and it just hard locks. And in some cases, there's just not much you can do about it. And you can control that at the end, because Steely, you can either there's a way to kill him on his because he like you if you hit him and hit him onto an edge, he cracks. That's what you have to do.
Mhm.
And there's a movement you can do. The first player that gets to that area where he is, he moves like up, and then if he's moving down, you can like contact him in a certain way when he moves all the way down to get him to the edge. So there's a decent setup for that. It's not 100% at it, but it's consistent in some ways. You either do that, or if you pass him by and don't kill him and you keep going along, he'll just move around on his platform randomly. If he moves to the top, he despawns. He goes off the top of the screen. That also solves the problem if he does that. So if you don't kill him, I mean, given our time, we would try to improve it. We're trying to get sub 3 at some point, maybe. We have a 303. If you don't kill him on the pass, you just go and hope he despawns. If he doesn't, then you probably win the world record anyway. So, that's what you have to do. But it was. I mean, I had a few other memories from that CGDQ stream. I remember watching Metroid. I do not remember. Oh, it was a Frezzy Man, I think, was doing Metroid, and he got to Torian, didn't see one missile drop in the entirety of Torian, and ran out of missiles and had to go back and get more missiles. And they're like, that's like the worst luck I've ever seen ever. He got nothing but health drops, and you need missile drops to beat the Mother Brain. Good times. It was a simpler time back then. And then obviously, if you look on YouTube for like sleeping streams, for AGDQ sleeping streams, 2 times during that stream, somebody fell asleep on the couch, and they did not wake them up. They just kind of left them there. So I will leave it to your imagination to go figure out who it was and when it happened.
I think one was Mike 89, or you'll Sega Junkie now. Okay,
Mike 89, yeah, right. Yep, that's right.
The reason I know this is because at AGQ 2020, it was like their
they did the thing at the
10-year anniversary.
Yep, that's right. I think I remember who the other person was. I'm not going to call them out though.
Well, I called out one. Oh well, but
yeah.
I mean,
if you
GDQ called them out first, so yeah, it's not my problem.
That's right. So, but he was on the sleep for a long. He was there for like the entirety of Secret of Mana, which is like a 5-hour game. He like sat down to like take somebody's place on the couch at the beginning of the run, and they just kind of left him there. Like, dude, just like nudge him a little bit or something. I don't know.
Hey, it made for that cool time lapse in that.
Oh, it did. And that time lapse went for a long time too. Wonder what he was thinking about. What is he thinking about 10 years later, where we would be at the time?
Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to my GDQ history. I attended AGDQ every year between 2013 and 2019.
Wow.
Did not have never had any games in. I like to think that I'm the original victim of hey, I've submitted every year and never got a game in. I like to think that I am. I'm probably not, but that's how I feel. That I probably submitted games. I mean, my first submission accepted was the Gauntlet Co-op in SGDQ 23.
Wow.
That was my first stage run ever. I was on stage for commentary for my brother at AGDQ 2017 for the Magic Sword Race. So that was my first time on the stage. I wasn't running, but I was doing commentary for that. But all of my other experience was behind the scenes. I've done stage tech, I've done stream tech. Had a lot of fun with those. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see what happens behind the scenes. It was very interesting to figure out how things work.
Are you allowed to talk about what you did?
I mean, yeah, I won't go into too many specifics, so I don't give any secret information.
Fair.
But I mean, the stage tech was the more interesting, because it's actually arranging people on the stage and it's seeing and communicating with the host. Like, okay, everyone's sitting on the stage. Do I need to move them to a certain direction to get them set up? Do they have the right console ready to go? I mean, I haven't done it since they went to a two stream setup.
Yeah.
So I signed up to do stage tech again at AGDQ 25. So I'll get to see how that works nowadays. But it's been nice to meet the runners as they're coming on stage. So to help them get set up and hopefully ease their mind if they're nervous and things like that. Because I was like that. I mean,
you've definitely stage tech for me.
Yeah, I did. I remember helping you see if the NES worked for your run, and I forgot to plug in the console. And I thought, why is it not working? Oh, plug the console in, dummy. Just did you know if power is going to the console, it turns on? Yeah, you lost me there. I have no idea. But yeah, I was definitely I was also stage tech for ADEF's run of Ratatouille for
Ah, yes, chef. Yes, yes,
yes, Chef.
yes.
Oh man, I was laughing
Classic.
so hard. It's funny because obviously the whole bit with Spike Vegeta coming on stage with the tray, and it's like he was sampling it as he was doing it, and he paused the run and everything. They actually told us ahead, the host told us ahead of time. Okay, as the run started, they're saying, okay, announcement to everyone who can hear me. Spike Vegeta is going to storm the stage. Let him go. Do not interrupt him. It's part of the bit. It's okay. He's had clearance for this. I thought
I
that
think
was.
he's allowed of all
I would
people.
think so.
Yeah.
He's staff, so I would
Mhm.
think that they would have no problem with that. But obviously, when you're behind the scenes, you're looking for things that are possibly wrong, and
Mhm.
something coming off the stage during a run is not something you would hope to see if it's not planned ahead of time. So
Mhm.
I always thought that was also pretty funny. And obviously, I'm just howling during the run as they just
Yeah.
literally said the word chef. I think somebody counted it. It was something like 700 times in a 20
Oh
minute run.
my god.
It was. I mean, somebody said they were going to donate $5 for every time they said the word chef, and they said, "Don't go broke, chef." Somebody think I did a nickel for every chef, and it was a much more reasonable amount of money. But they said chef a lot, and it was
Brooke Shipp.
and you can tell Adef is an actor because he played that part to
Mhm.
the hilt. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But I've definitely been behind the scenes for some interesting times. I've actually done hosting before too.
Hmm.
I probably couldn't get into hosting nowadays. I'm I know that I'm not as I'm not very excitable in most cases. I'm not sure if I have the right voice for that kind of thing nowadays. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
But my favorite moment was I got to be the host for the Link to the Past in AGDQ 2016. The Link to the Past reverse boss order race with Andy and Super Scudge. And I remember first memory is they spent like 20 minutes on setup because they were having some kind of problem. So I
Mm.
straight off read donations for 20 straight minutes. I mean, they had a task block right before the run. So donations were like piled up. I mean, I had, looking at the computer, I probably had 5 pages of things to read. So I'm like, you need 20 minutes? I'll give you 20 minutes. I'm going to read donations for 20 minutes. I mean, I'm like, there were like a few $1,000 donations. There was a $2,000 donation in there. I read all
Oh
of them.
shit.
I even got to a point where I thought I was catching up and said, okay, I think we're starting to run. And I think we're ready to start the run. And the stage tech looks at me and is like, okay, they said no, I'm going to keep reading. They're not ready here yet. And I spent another 10 minutes reading donations. I mean, my biggest problem with that is that when they actually were ready to go, the first thing I said was I'm trying to hype up the audience. And what came out of my mouth was, is everybody ready for a Link to the Past reverse border run
Ah, you
instead
combine
of
boss and
reverse
order.
boss order
Yes.
run? And you can tell the audience first said, "What did he say?" Because there's like a 1 second pause, and then everyone started clapping like, "Yeah, woo, we're ready!" And of course I'm you can't see me, but I'm face palming because I was trying to reading donations for 20 minutes and trying to get ready for that hype moment when the race is about to start, and we're like $9,000 away from a million. We're about to hit $1,000,000 for the event, and I say reverse border run. They never let me do announcing after that. I think that was the last time I ever did it. Maybe they know. Maybe they know something.
Mm.
I haven't offered to do it either. Probably
Oh
just out of
well.
shame, sheer shame. But that's what it is. But
Classic yells choke.
that was also another famous stomp, which was incorrectly attributed at the time because no one could see what I could see because I could see the stage.
Mm.
For some reason, they had they had the Super NESs on the floor.
Yeah, I
That
remember
was
when they
not a
did
good
that.
idea.
No.
I don't know
Oh my
why they
god.
did that, but that's what they did. They must have during the 20-minute setup not thought about that because they were dealing with video issues, and that was the farthest thing from their mind was having consoles on the floor. But if you go about, I don't know, probably about an hour 10 into the run or so, Andy takes a death and does the whole, oh my god, I can't believe I died, and you can hear a thud, and then Super Scudge's SNES turns off.
Mm.
And he was about to kill a boss or something. This is like a pivotal moment for him too.
Mm-hmm.
And he this he turned to Andy like, you turned my console off, or he said something to that effect. It was he thought Andy had stomped the floor, and that was what caused it. But the problem was Andy was not the only one who did that motion when he died. Patty was on the couch behind him, and
no.
he's the one who actually stomped the floor after that because he was so excited that Andy died. Because that's the bit that they hate Andy and want him to die at every possible opportunity. And just look at the what was it, the most recent, the randomizer they did where what do they call it, where they donate bits to do things to him. I can't remember.
Oh, crowd control.
Crowd control, thank you.
Yes.
They did that, and they were so happy every time he died at a boss fight. Like, you gotta kill him, fat. You got like 10 seconds to kill him, chat. Come on, let's go. They do that bit so well.
Oh yeah.
But actually, his stomp was the one. If you watch the video, it's his stomp that causes the SNES to turn off. But it was easy to blame Andy because he obviously made the motion, but it wasn't his stomp that did it. And I think he tried to explain that, but in the heat of the moment, he was like, at the time he was ahead in the race, and he would have been behind because he died, and yeah. And Scudge ended up they actually timed how much time Scudge lost because of that, and if it hadn't happened, Scudge would have won by like 2 seconds, which is really a shame. It would have been really close. It was really close at the end to see that, but that's what it is. But I had the best view because I'm sitting. I mean, obviously you can't see me on the stream, but I'm like right on the edge of the stage, off to the left, and I'm looking at them. And my first thought, of course, is why are the SNESs on the floor? That's not. You don't want that. That's not. We've had stomping incidents at GDQs before. It's not. This may have been the first one. It may have been one before that. I can't remember. It's the more famous one, the Grand Pooh Bear one. That was a later. That was a later event.
You think they would have learned by there because the consoles were on the floor.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore. There's a table there now. I don't think they do that. They've learned that. They've learned that lesson the hard way. But yeah, I had the best view because I was sitting right there. I saw the whole thing. So that was definitely a high moment for me in my hosting career, my short hosting career at GDQ. The other one was my very first hosting shift ever. Was the beat 'em up block at AGDQ 2015, PJ, Murphy-Gator, and Butters, when they did three arcade. They did Battletoads, and I don't remember the other two. There was three famous arcade. It was three arcade beat 'em ups, and they did them back to back to back. And it's funny that I saw PJ in the hallway beforehand, and I met him before. He knew who I was. I told him it was my first hosting shift. He's like, dude, that's awesome. You're gonna do great. He was very comforting. I always thank him for that because I was nervous, man. I was not in a good
It's a tough job. There's a lot of people watching.
You can tell there's a lot going on. Especially back then where it wasn't as I would assume it's not as automated. Certain things aren't as automated as they were before. So I don't even know if you had a mute button, but obviously you do now, but they may not have had a very good one back then. So you had to make sure you didn't say the wrong thing at the wrong time. I also didn't even know who my replacement was. And I was like talking about various restreams, and then I just go off the mic and I leave because my replacement showed up like 5 minutes late. So that was a bit of an awkward transition because I had no idea who was coming in. I think I remember that. I think the problem was my replacement changed. So they said that my replacement was something happened and somebody else was coming to replace him, and I had no idea who. So I had no idea who to throw it to after I was done. So, but that arcade block was really cool because I had never seen arcade games played in such a manner up close. So they had a super gun. And they were playing as. I was really interested in that because obviously I started playing arcade Arkanoid with my fancy controller.
Well, there it is.
Arcade Arkanoid. There it is. Shout out to Ramones TKO who made this. Works very well. Highly recommend. The issue, obviously, with playing arcade Arkanoid versus NES is that the NES dial controller.
So that's the one.
But this dial, the dial only goes back and forth a certain amount, and so it is a hard stop either direction because that's the NES uses that to determine to stop you at the boundaries of the level, right? But the other one is free spinning. The actual arcade dial is free spinning. It just spins forever in either direction. So that's why I think that because I was looking for a good replacement for the NES controller because again I have 4 of them and one of them works okay and the others barely work at all because it has an adjustment thing in there, but it's 35-year-old technology. potentiometers degrade over time. I mean, you can't without replacing parts that I don't know how to replace. That's beyond my. And I'd love to play Arkanoid more often, but the controllers just don't want to. And I can still play with the controllers, and you can see when I play, when the paddle gets to around like the right hand side, it starts jittering like this, and you wonder how anyone can play it with it doing that. And I can somehow, but it's. I would definitely not like to do that if at all possible, but now I've been playing arcade Arkanoid, which is much harder because it's an arcade game. Even with 3 fewer levels, it makes up for it in other ways, for sure. Mm-hmm. But highly recommend. I'd like to do it at a GDQ sometime, maybe if I get into a spot where I can actually beat the game consistently every time. Because that's the biggest thing with NES Arkanoid. I very rarely game over. I've probably game over 3 or 4 times in the last 10 years. So it really doesn't happen very often, which is funny to think about a game of that difficulty, that I can be that consistent. And it's not easy. But, I mean, I did a run at a smaller event. Right? My brother knows the name of the event. But I had horrible luck, and I was at my last life about halfway through. I just buckled down and, got a few lucky extra lives to get back to where I was, and everything was fine. Which can happen, but I think the 1-up capsules are as rare as the break capsules, the warp capsules. So that doesn't help. But sometimes you get so many extra lives. Like the screen shows 6 extra lives. It counts beyond that, so you can have more. I've had runs where I've had the full complement of lives of the final boss, and think, oh, it must be a pretty good run. But sometimes you just go slow. If you go slow, you can beat the game easily. I'm trying to go fast, so there are definitely situations where I would not do that. Oh yes, RBG Land. Thank you. That was the event.
Got it.
Memory is tough because I can't remember anything anymore, as I've shown.
I feel like you've done a pretty good job so far, but I mean, you could be spitting nonsense for all I know. So
I have very extensive notes off to the side here. They're helping me out.
Hey, whatever works.
I mean, I haven't even talked about all the stuff that I wrote down, but some of it is stuff that I'd rather not get into. I mean, I can get into some of the things of GDQs that I don't agree with, but that's probably better suited for other scenarios. I mean, I just got into GDQ. You don't want to bash them now. That's not a good idea.
Yeah. Not
like, don't take my game away. What will my brother say? But no, I've touched on most of the games that I've wanted to touch on. I would say that there are other games that I have not, that are not really speedrun games that I play, such as Minecraft. I've played my kids got me into Minecraft like 5 years ago, and I haven't stopped playing it because I thought it wasn't a game I ever thought I would play. It's like it's like an open field building game. It's not really in my wheelhouse. And then until I started playing it, and then I got hooked and haven't stopped. So. Other games like that, I got into Tetris the Grandmaster.
Oh wow!
That
Two
was
of those got into GDQ too.
Yeah, one of my that did. It was, and I can't wait to see it. But one of my favorite blocks from AGDQ 2015 was the Tetris block. I had no idea what it was about. I had no idea these arcade versions existed, and then I watched this block, and I thought, damn. I thought I was good at Tetris. I'm not good at Tetris. These guys are good at Tetris. That's.
Yeah, a little too good at Tetris.
Yeah, a little too good. Yeah, I've tried watching some of the Japanese players how they play it. My brain can't work that fast.
Don't things go invisible at some point?
Yeah, they do.
It's crazy.
They just, I mean, the speed alone is enough. But then when the pieces disappear on lockdown, that does. I don't know. I can't imagine how much time I would have to play to get to a point where I could play like that. I can't even fathom that. And these guys have been playing the game for 10, 15 years probably. And they can do that. And they do it easily. They do it every time.
They're probably confused how you do Arkanoid so well, right?
I guess so. I mean,
same thing.
I watched the Japanese runner Khan. He was doing speed runs of Grandmaster grade in TGM3, which is like at the time of AGDQ 2015, there were 5 people in the world who had ever gotten this grade in TGM3, and he was speed running it, which. I mean, you got to be good at this game to do something like that. Because there are people out there who get GM once and then never play again.
You have
like,
to be
I got
the
my grade. I don't want
to do that.
Because you can lose grades in that game. If you do horribly in the next game, you're going to lose the grade. And like, why would I do that? Why would I ever play again? But just to say that you have to play at the ultra high caliber 5 games in a row to do this speed run. I mean, I've played. Luckily, TGM 1 and 2 have come out on the Switch. I have gotten GM and TGM 1, and I'm very happy that I was able to do that. I actually did it on stream. I've done it on stream twice, and I've done it off stream twice.
Hmm.
And I mean, it took me probably 6 months of solid play to get to the level we're in, and a lot of help from the community telling me how certain movements work in the game, about how how holding a button down when the piece spawns rotates it immediately. That I was like mashing the button to get it to do that. I'm like, no, hold the button down. Like, oh, that makes so much sense. Now I'm playing like a grandmaster, right? Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And I've tried TGM 2. My biggest accomplishment is TGM 2. They had a TGM 2 console at SGDQ 2023, an actual arcade console, and I was very excited about that because it was like right before the game came out on the Switch, so I wanted to try it in the actual arcade on the actual machine to get a feel for it. So I thought that was really cool, and I knew that there was a mode called doubles where two players play at the same time and try to get to level 300 each at the same time, and apparently it's very hard to do because as hard as one player playing by himself is. Imagine two players playing at the same time on the same play field. It's riddled with bugs, and it's amazing, and it's terrible, and it's great. And I was fortunate because Enchantress of Numbers, Eon, was at the event also, and she was really excited that I was playing TGM, and came up to me and said, "Do you want to go for TGM 2 completion doubles?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And I mean, obviously, she is a TGM 1, TGM 2 Grandmaster, and she's way ahead of me in TGM games for sure. But we played for a solid probably 2 hours in doubles mode, struggling through it. Getting almost to the end, but getting both players to finish at the end is super hard because of the way the game is set up. And after like 2 hours, a little over 2 hours, we got it done, and we're like, yes, it was such a hard. I mean, we took pictures of everything, put it on social media. It was great. That was the pinnacle of Tetris, and she has her own TGM1 machine too, which I played a little bit and did okay, not great, but I was all Tetrised out. I played TGM2 like every single day in the arcade. It was my hand was starting to hurt a little bit. It's a lot of hard movements there to say where you need to be in that game, because that game gets super fast at level 900 or so. I've been trying to get to level 999 just in the regular master mode, and the last 100 levels is so fast that the speed jump is so great. I'm not ready for it. So like the 2 or 3 times I've gotten there, I've immediately died because I'm not ready for the speed jump. And I hope to someday be able to get to that, and maybe then to get higher grades. We'll see. But then I proposed to my brother, thinking about speedrun ideas, co-op ideas. Like, I could bring my Switch over. We can do co-op doubles for TGM2. And he's like, I'm pretty garbage at Tetris, but maybe we can give it a shot. But so we did, and we actually beat it. And I mean, because it doesn't get to very fast speed. At the end of doubles, it kind of gets to a fast speed. But it's definitely, we definitely got a lot of runs that got close to 300 on both sides. But just the final stretch is really hectic, because obviously the speed is going up really fast, and it goes to instant gravity when one person gets to 300 and the other one's not there yet. So I found that me playing intentionally slowly so that I stayed, because he's not playing as fast as I am because I play more, and he letting him like stay a little bit ahead of me but not too far ahead of me, and keeping our levels equalized. That was the run that really worked out, so that got us to the end. So I was really happy that we got that on stream once. And I was looking at they have leaderboards on the Tetris website. Apparently we're like in like 80th place or something. I thought that can't be too bad. I didn't actually submit it to a leaderboard, but just seeing the people on there, I have to imagine that leaderboard is not all encompassing, or that people just do doubles and not submit times. But if we ever do put on a leaderboard, we wouldn't be in a bad spot.
Is this part of the Arcade Archives collection?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Don't they have their own like leaderboards built into the?
They do. They do. There was an online leaderboard that somebody mentioned. I think somebody in the chat at the time went to look on this website, and it's like, hey guys, you're in like 70 or 80th place on this time. I'm like, really? That doesn't seem right. But hey, I'll take it if we put it on there ever.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, they have their own internal rankings. It's weird that TGM1 on my Switch is weird that it only seems to save my times if they actually beat my PB, because it has like your top 3 scores ever. But if I beat my second place time, when I turn the game off and come back to it, it's gone. So it only saves my best time ever. and I never really figured that out, which is unfortunate because I like seeing 3 GM grades on my top 3 scores ever. That and there's like 2 leaders, like all-time leaderboard and today's leaderboard, and they're always exactly the same. TGM2 fixed that problem, but TGM1 on the Switch, the both leaderboards are the same. I guess they couldn't figure it out. I don't know. But I mean, it seems like it seems like a pretty exact copy of the arcade game, so it behaves the same way.
Oh yeah, they're just. I'm pretty sure Arcade Archives are just one-to-one ports of.
Yeah, I did not see any differences based on me playing the arcade version previously.
Yeah, so, I only have Donkey Kong and versus Mario. I know, shocking. So I haven't.
I refuse to believe.
Far.
I don't believe it at all.
No, not at all. So I haven't delved in too far, but from what I can tell, it feels one-to-one. So,
all right,
it's a good collection.
Yeah. Besides that, I mean, I think I've. I guess the last thing I'll mention that I want to talk about is NES Odyssey, which we did the Best of NES community did back in summertime.
Oh, beat as many
where
games
the community
as
tried to beat all the NES games within was it a week? I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yep. So that was the goal.
And that all American releases or like every Japanese?
I think it was just American releases. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure about that. They had a list of, I think it was 800 games. So I think it did include some.
Yeah, that's a few.
Some Famicom games. I mean, I played one of them. I played Quarth. Because I had played Game Boy Quarth way back in the day. Like, I know Quarth, no problem. But the only version of Quarth is the Japanese version. So I thought, all right, whatever. And it behaved pretty much the same anyway. So I muddled my way through that. I have a last place on the leaderboard. I don't care. I was the only one who did it for the Odyssey, so it was fine. But it was fun going through the list and thinking of, to get back to my point that I made a while back about being the world record holder of a game no one else plays. So my first thought was, let's see if there's games on this list that I would be the only one to play this week. Because they're going to depend on me. Because no one else they're going to have to learn these games, whatever.
Well, you had to do Arkanoid for sure.
I did Arkanoid for sure. That was not a problem. I mean, one of them that I did was Air Fortress.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, Air Fortress and me, we go way back because Dragon Dark and I, we did races of Air Fortress because they were really excited back in the day to play because I was the only other one who played it. And MTI was there too. MTI was a big Air Fortress fan. Like, you guys should do races of Air Fortress. And Dragon Dark beat me the first time we did a GDQ in 2013, I think. His NES reset, or their NES reset, and it on the first level, and came back and beat me anyway. I died on the final boss. It was sad. But then I came back in 2015, and we discussed ahead of time. And we agreed not to practice ahead of time for this because we hadn't played in 2 years. And Dragon Dark didn't remember much. I remembered a lot more than they did. So I won that race. But we still had fun doing it. But I played it for the Odyssey and submitted my time to the Odyssey, and someone else beat it like 3 hours before I did. And I didn't know who they were. I'm like, nah, man, I wouldn't wasted my time. I mean, I didn't feel like it was a real waste of time per se. But
I feel like this has got to be coordinated better.
That's why I thought we had a big spreadsheet. That was what the spreadsheet was for. I don't know. But looking down the list, the biggest one that I saw on the list that I was pretty sure only I could beat was Genghis Khan.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's a Koei strategy game.
Okay.
That I played way back in the day. I wrote an FAQ about it. I've played it so much that I can anticipate all the computer's movements, and I know exactly what they're going to do in every scenario. And I played through the entire game on the hardest difficulty. And I remember vividly when I put my name on the spreadsheet. Aaron2U2 was going over the spreadsheet looking at games to sign up for because he's played a lot of games. He saw my name next to Genghis Khan, he went, thank God he signed up for it because I don't want to have to try to learn that game in 3 days. So I said, no problem. I think I'm probably not going to get to it till the end of the week because it's a long game, obviously. I'm not used to doing 5-hour speedruns. I have a time on a leader. I created a leaderboard for my one time, which was 5 hours and 6 minutes or something. And I did one run and then never went back to it. The main problem with the game, and the main reason why, is that the music is very droning. It's the same loop over and over and over and over again. But it's either that or dead silence. And that's not much better for 5 hours. I mean, I played video game OSTs while I was doing the run for the Odyssey because I didn't care. I need something. I can't put up with. I don't know how I did a run for 5 hours and put up with that music for 5 hours. I must have been. I mean, at that time I I had 2 viewers for that entire stream. I mean, no one was watching. I probably could have put on OSTs and no one would care, but I wanted to be legit. So there you go. Never again. But Aaron was so happy when I put my name on the list. Like, it's because it's. I mean, if you don't know the game, I mean, if no one had started it, I mean, I played it on Friday, like the second to last day. If no one had played it until then, no one was going to beat it. Then what?
Yeah.
I mean, I played on the hardest difficulty. You didn't have to play on the hardest difficulty. I only did because that's the only method I. It's the only hardest. Hardest difficulty really isn't a good description of it. It doesn't really make the game harder. It makes the game more annoying, if anything else. Like, the computer will just attack you without knowing it's not going to win, just to waste your time. But look, if you beat the game fast enough, it doesn't even get enough troops to do that, so it's, whatever. But you can conquer the Mongolian continent in a very short amount of time. That's what I did.
Well, the Odyssey was a cool project, and it was successful, wasn't it?
It was successful. I mean, it depends on... I feel, and again, this is not me, I'm not an admin of Best of NES, I have no idea for sure, but it definitely didn't sit well how they treated some games near the end, like Miracle Piano. Like, they had people playing Miracle Piano, but I mean, obviously, being the entire game, I mean, if you don't play the piano and don't have the hardware...
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar to Arkanoid. If you don't have the Arkanoid controller, what are you going to do? Same thing.
You can't beat it on the NES controllers.
Yeah, you can't beat it. It's not possible. So, I mean, they settled on beating the first 10 lessons, which I think that's a category. I don't know. I don't play the game. Obviously, I never played the game. I've seen TMR play it. I thought his playing was absolutely amazing.
I know it was his longest game in his entire NES.
Yeah, it was like 90 some hours, I think. But I mean,
it was crazy. Yeah.
I can only imagine if he wasn't already musically inclined. I can't even imagine how long it would take him. Yeah. But him already being musically gifted, I'm sure, helped tremendously.
Maybe a little bit, but I think he went into it not knowing piano. So
yeah, but I think if you're playing other instruments, I can only imagine it must have helped.
It will help. Yeah. No.
I mean, he got through the first 2/3 of the game pretty quickly. It was just the really hard songs at the end that he spent. I mean, the fact that he had separate timers for each lesson after lesson 30. And one of them took like 17 hours alone. It was so bad. Wow. And obviously, it's almost like Tetris the Grandmaster. You have no idea if you're doing well or not. You just play the song and it'll tell you, okay, you did well enough, go on. But it's not showing like your score or anything. You have no idea if you're doing it right. I think there were lessons that were bugged, that he was doing them correctly and it wasn't given credit for it, and he just had to skip them. I can only imagine if anyone's dug into the code of Miracle Piano to see what the scoring system is. But overall, the project really was. It was a very interesting project and done very well, I would say. I know that definitely it coincided with my. I was doing my 1,000 follower stream, and I turned it into an Odyssey stream as well. I did like 13 NES games back to back to back to back.
Nice.
And I tried to pick as many games as I could that I knew and that may not have been picked by other people. Obviously, games like Marble Madness, like 8 different people did Marble Madness, but it was a game I knew, so it was okay. There were definitely a few games on the list that I was the only one who did them. I was shocked I was the only one on there with a Ninja Gaiden 2 run, I think.
What? Okay.
Which didn't make any sense to me. Now, I'm not a runner of that game, but I think, I think at the time, when I first submitted, I was the first one to submit.
Oh, okay. And
it didn't make any sense to me. I'm pretty sure there were others who did, too. That doesn't make any sense. But, I mean, I've beaten Ninja Gaiden 2 many times. I've never speedrun it. I mean, my time was like 20 minutes. It's not like twice what the world record is, but there were a couple of games.
Ninja Gaiden 2, another run that got into GDQ.
What's that?
AGDQ. Oh, Ninja Gaiden 2 got into AGDQ as well.
Oh yeah, Retro Runner. I saw got that in. When I first saw that, I thought, oh, he's gonna revenge his Ninja Gaiden 1 performance from last year. And oh no, it's Ninja Gaiden 2. Never mind.
he had a great performance the first time he did Ninja Gaiden 1. So
yeah,
it was like an 11:40 something. It was like 10 seconds slower than record at the time. It was wild.
But I can only imagine that his last performance at GDQ didn't sit well when he could not beat the game.
Yeah, that was
without power. I think it was story only. I think.
Yeah,
was that the challenge? He just died like 6 times on the final boss. I mean, that's not what you want when you're on the stage. That's just not it. But
yeah, that game.
I mean, he kept it together pretty well, I would say. Having watched them when I watched that, he and his commentators really kept it all together, because it's easy. I can, as someone who would get insanely frustrated if that kind of thing happened, that would be an easy time to throw the controller down and walk off the stage and never come back. But he stuck it out.
Yeah.
Really well.
I was there. I was actually there in the room for both of what he
Oh,
did.
were you?
So
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. So I'll see this one too, even though I know Ninja Gaiden 2 a lot less, but it'll be worth it.
I've tried. The funniest thing about Ninja Gaiden 1 is that the Switch, the NES category, the catalog on the Switch, it has, Ninja Gaiden 1 and then like a souped up version of Ninja Gaiden 1.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the souped up version puts you at the final boss with no spin slash.
Interesting
So
decision.
it doesn't. I still can't beat the game with the souped up file. I can't do it because you die and you go back to the start of 6-1. Like, I can't beat level 6. I've never beaten it in my life. Thanks, game. I thought that was hilarious though.
Classic.
Oh well, someday. I would love to beat Ninja Gaiden 1 someday, but I don't. I do not have the current. I don't have, again, back to mashing. I don't have the mashing or coordination for that yet, but someday, maybe someday. But yeah, I can't think of. I mean, I pretty much touched on everything that I could think of. We touched on my GDQ runs, the upcoming GDQ runs. Yeah, I think that pretty much encompasses my entire career to date.
Well, there we go. Well, I guess, are there any future plans you can think of that you didn't talk about yet?
Yeah, I mean, I went through a list of games that I would like to play at some point. I mean, my problem is with an inconsistent streaming schedule and my sometimes jumping from game to game depending on my whims or whatever I'm feeling that particular night doesn't really lend itself to consistent success in various things. I mean, because the top of the list was NES Gauntlet at the time. Because there are 4 characters also, and there's the 100% all clues category. It's a 100% category. So I wanted to do all those and then improve and try to get the world record back in the elf category, which is the main category. And I've been trying for a while. I haven't gotten it yet. I'm trying to see if I get to the point, and I haven't actually played it in a while now. So I'm thinking, maybe I should just move on to something else. Because I want to get back to TGM2. There's a couple other games that I play or have played that I would love to just get time to leaderboard for. And I think thinking about Tetris more. I've been playing TGM2 casually on my Switch from time to time, just not on stream. And yeah, I think that may be my next again. Getting TGM2 GM grade. I'm not worried about that yet. I want to get to level 999 first. Then we'll worry about improving it after that. So, because they described it really well at the first showcase in 2015. They said that the number of TGM1 grandmasters, probably thousands, 10,000s of people. TGM2 at the time, probably 100 people overall have ever gotten TGM2 Grandmaster. And then TGM3 is 5. I mean, I've been following TGM3 for a while. I think TGM3 Grandmaster is up to like 30 now or so, which is still crazy given the game's been out for, 15 years at least now? Probably a lot more than that now. And only 25 people in the world have ever gotten GM grade.
Yeah.
That's a hard game. I've never actually played TGM3. I would love to try to play it. I played it on what's that emulator that I've found?
MAME?
I can't remember what it's called. No, not on MAME. It's not. It's a different. It's not an emulator. It's a different version of the game.
Oh well, I wouldn't know. So.
Yeah, there's a specific program that emulates TGM3.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. So I've tried on that with a keyboard, and I've gotten a grade of 3, but it goes too fast for me. So.
Well. We get to see 2 and 3 in a couple months. So there we
go. I would love to play that on stream for sure.
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of NES Tetris recently now too, because that's been getting really popular. So.
Oh yeah, sure. With the whole the run to the rebirth.
Yeah, rebirth. The game
that was so cool to watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the fact that watching, definitely highly recommend Summoning Salt's NES Tetris video, the history of the world records. That was. It's even obsolete now, which is crazy.
Obsolete by a lot. By a lot. The high score is double what it already was, and the last high score was a double of. Oh my god.
It's crazy to think about how far the game's come. And I think about how my highest score ever is probably 400,000. I'm not bad at Tetris. These guys are good at Tetris.
It's not 40 million or whatever.
yeah, whatever it is. I get to level 19. And then I'm done. It's too fast for me.
Fair.
That night can't. I'm a DAS player, so it's. I'm already playing from behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
Maybe someday I'll learn this whole. I watched them do that, the rolling on the back of the
Yeah, the
controller.
rolling.
They make it look so easy, but I can't imagine how much practice it must take to get to that level.
Yeah, you need a really consistent rhythm, I assume, to
Yeah, for sure.
make all the inputs register. But
yeah. I have times on the NES Tetris leaderboard. They're not very good, but they're there.
Speedrun's a speedrun. Like,
It is. It is. As they're all valid.
It's all that matters. Well,
that's right.
Have we reached our conclusion?
I think I'm about to lose my voice. So I think that's perfect timing, I think.
Well, that's a good excuse, so I'll follow that.
We still went, what, 2.5 hours?
No, yeah.
Good. Wow. Something like that.
We've been yapping a while, yeah.
That's longer than I thought it was going to last, so I'll take it.
Well done.
Well
done.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, yes, I will thank you for the invitation to be here. It was a lot of fun, and I'm sure I will see you at AGDQ.
You sure will. And while we're closing up, feel free to self-promote.
No, I'm terrible at self-promoting.
Well, I've already shouted you out, so you got to do it now.
All my information's there it's listed there. I am CHESSJERK pretty much everywhere that I go. Oddly enough, my Xbox 360 name was CHESSJERK without the E in the jerk, because the CHESSJERK was already taken. I think I took it on my brother's Xbox 360. I don't know, whatever. But I'm CHESSJERK pretty much everywhere else. Generally, I stream between the hours of 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern time. Very rarely stream during the day. It's a very weird coincidence that happens. I am playing in the current Z1R tournament. My next race is tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Probably on a Speed Gaming channel, so look out for that. And if I ever get my Switch working on my stream again, I'll definitely play TGM2 at some point, as well as whatever NES speedrun I can think of. So we'll go from there.
Oh, sounds good. And then, yep, stay tuned for AGDQ. Lots of banger stuff. We'll both be there, so...
Schedule is excellent.
Schedule is fantastic.
Oh
yeah. My god.
Highly recommend.
I cannot wait. But yeah, I get on a plane tomorrow, so I gotta get ready for that.
Good luck. I do not get on a plane tomorrow, so I don't know how that feels. But good luck to you.
Yep. Gotta go to Pace, another speedrunning event, because I can't stop going to them. So
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, and they keep accepting me. How dare they?
I know.
No.
How could they possibly do that to you?
I don't know. But anyway, yeah, we'll wrap things up here. Thanks everyone for watching. This episode will air on my YouTube next Sunday. So not this upcoming Sunday, but the next one. So gonna have to wait a while. So if you watched it live, you were here. You got the early content. You were here.
For the quote-unquote Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight.
Yes. It will
feels
be
like
true.
Sunday.
It will be true on YouTube. That's all that matters.
Excellent. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. All right. Well, as always, thanks for watching. Take care. You know where all the stuff is to follow the peoples, and have a good one. All right. Good night. Bye-bye.